Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lost-Plaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And sorry, I'm managing everything. Get the real last-second arrival here. And how are you guys doing tonight? I hope the answer to that is very well. I always wish you all very well. And I am not 1 minute late. I was on time. You can't put that on me. You can't do it. What is going on back here? Oh my goodness. Oh yes, I do have to add my other channel to the description, which I will do in just a moment. Oh my goodness. So, also join my other channel for less legal content. HT. All right. There we go. So, I'm here today to reap a harvest. A harvest of doom pills. I'm taking them all back. I'm retrieving the doom pills. I'm exchanging them for hope white pills or hype pills, whatever you call them. I don't know. Eventually, I'll open an OnlyFans and it will be nothing but coom pills. But for now, I'm harvesting doom pills. But I'm probably, in all honesty, only saving them for later. Only saving them for later to feed them back to you. But we are going to look. There were some big developments that happened today. There were some big developments that happened today. Pennsylvania and Nevada. There were some victories. I did a video on a brief introductory video on the Pennsylvania victory today. We're going to probably look at that lawsuit. Oh, excuse me. We're going to look at that lawsuit. It is a very interesting suit. It's not a super long read, 24 pages. And they are moving past the initial stage, which is surprising. Now, let me just say a couple things. This is not the Trump lawsuit. Rudy Giuliani is not the lawyer here. Neither is Julie Kearns, I think her name is. This does not have anything to do with the Trump legal team or their arguments. And in fact, this case has nothing to do with fraud. All right? So, I don't want any... I've been watching the mixed messaging from both sides. People who like me, people who hate me, people who are Republican, people who are Democrat, misunderstanding this lawsuit is not a part of the Trump legal strategy. This lawsuit is not brought by the Trump legal team, and this lawsuit has nothing to do with the legal theory that Trump has been forwarding or with fraud generally. This lawsuit will not have effect outside of Pennsylvania either. Okay? So this is not that. There's other stuff going on in Pennsylvania involving that, which we're also going to talk about. Because there was a Pennsylvania legislative hearing today about election fraud. Finally, we got to see some of the stuff that Rudy's been talking about, which is great. Great to see that stuff manifest. And I'm gonna address a bunch of things as we get going here, but we're gonna probably look at that too because that's really interesting. I have heard that Sidney Powell is filing a quote-unquote 100-page lawsuit in one of the Georgia federal districts. I don't know what that lawsuit is. I don't know if it's been filed yet. I don't know. I haven't, found it, but it might be. I'm not saying it hasn't. I don't know. Let me Let me rank everything in things I have interest and confidence in. Right now, this Pennsylvania suit is very interesting. It's very interesting. This is a very complex suit with really, really hard questions. Probably harder questions than fraud for reasons which we'll address. But it also has clear Constitution of Pennsylvania issues which a court can resolve. How the court might resolve them is a big question there. So I have a lot of interest in this case and how it proceeds. In 2 days, there will be an evidentiary hearing, and that is good. What happens after that? Don't know. Could get tossed. We're going to talk about all that. I'm really interested in the Nevada stuff. I believe this is the Trump team in Nevada has won the opportunity to do an accelerated deposition schedule and actually present evidence at an evidentiary hearing scheduled for December 2nd in Nevada. Big news. That's really big news in Nevada. Pennsylvania and Nevada are not enough to take the election from Biden and give it to Trump, or even to just take the election from Biden and invoke the 12th Amendment. They need a third state. Georgia could be that state. Wisconsin could be that state. Really, anything could. But where they're focusing their legal efforts, looks like Georgia, potentially Wisconsin, potentially Michigan are their targets there. So there's that. I have to caveat all of this, and I will when we really get started in just a minute. I'm going to caveat it with all of this with, this is not in any way a guarantee. This is not even close to a good chance. We are still in the longest of shot odds possible. Trump has still presumptively lost, which means that any steps, and this was a Bush v. Gore sort of strategy for the Bush team as well. This is not, like, I'm not being weird here. The presumptive loss and the media blitz talking about the wonderful homages and oratories of Joe Biden and all of this weird crap that's going on is specifically engineered to normalize a Joe Biden win. That has an effect, a tangible effect on the likelihood of a favorable result for Donald Trump in every single action. Because whether it's in the courts have to weigh the political fallout of their actions, or whether it's in the political remedies that are available, the politicians have to look at overturning the will of the people. But they should be paying damn good attention to the fact that I believe over half the electorate, when you factor in Republicans and Democrats, believe that Joe Biden is not the legitimate winner of this election. It's something like 97% of Republicans believe that, and 20 to 30% of Democrats, if I read the headlines correctly, believe that Joe Biden is not the legitimate winner of this election. So, with everything I'm saying, there is the little bing asterisk that says, if these people pay attention to how popular opinion is actually playing out, they do have leeway that they otherwise might not, because the Trump media blitz has been effective enough to keep public opinion writ large in his favor, even if the mass media attention is not. And that is a very, very big deal. I can analogize this to all sorts of things, but I may just let you draw your own conclusions about other cases we've talked about here on this show. So, that being said, there's a long way to go, but the steps made today are big steps on that road. All right? Now, for the few people out there yelling at me to get Razor Fist on my show and debate him, especially in light of his black pill body bag video today, let me say something. I watched that video, and there is not a single thing in that video that I disagree with or that disagrees with anything I've said, other than maybe I'm not a big fan of marching in the streets. But that's never changed. I've never been a fan of marching in the streets or anything. That's the only minor difference of opinion we have here. I know people, like, because I read the feedback, right? I've read comments on the YouTube videos. I've read comments on Twitter. And I see what people are hearing me say, and I'm baffled over and over by hearing it. I'll say it again for the 50,000th time. I fully believe that fraud occurred in this election. I fully believe that fraud has occurred in every election of my lifetime and probably every election entirely. I don't know how much. I'm willing to be convinced that it's enough to swing the election, but I can't know until they actually bring the evidence. And up until today, none of the evidence has been brought properly before any sort of board or judge or anything. The first thing we've got is this hearing in Pennsylvania. And there's some good stuff in it. I haven't watched the whole thing. It's like 3 hours. We'll probably start watching it a little bit later in the show. And that will be great. But I watched Razorfist's video, and I want to reiterate, I agree with all of that. And I don't know how you would get the impression that I don't. And I said this to someone else on Twitter today, that Trump has until December 12th. My concern has never been that Trump should throw in the towel and quit. My concern has been, you're running out of time. Get the good stuff out there as soon as possible, because you only have until December 12th. I'm telling you, whatever you think the courts can do, the likelihood that the courts have any ability to do anything past the constitutionally mandated time for electors to cast their votes on December 12th, that's where it's done. Chop. After that, you're talking about impeachment as a remedy. And an impeachment doesn't put Trump in the White House. So, I'm frustrated and doom-pilling all over the place, much to my detriment, by the way. My stress level is up. I'm arguing with people that I like. I don't like any of that. But what I'm seeing from the Trump team has been bad. And there's no way around it. Like, Rudy Giuliani probably isn't, I mean, his oral argument was bad. He's not the guy who was drafting the documents in that suit. That was clearly someone else because he came on that morning. That team, though, is probably responsible for that case in Pennsylvania to be useless. And there's no other way to say it. There's nothing, that's not anything to do with anything other than they made severe mistakes that have bit them in the ass, and that case will probably not go to the Supreme Court because there's nothing for the Supreme Court to hear. They've closed. That's like having 3 doors to different treasure rooms and you just closed one. And that has to be called out. That's not the fault of some biased judge in Pennsylvania. That's not the fault of some Obama appointee or something else. That was just shit lawyering, and somebody should be fired for it. And you got to acknowledge when it happens. It happened. It just did. All right? And that may cost them the case in Pennsylvania. That case isn't the only path to victory in Pennsylvania. It may not have been a viable path to victory anyway. But that's what that is. So if you've been watching the past 2 days during the daytime streams talking about that case, that's all still true. None of that changes because of anything that happens ever going forward. Unless they somehow get cert from the Supreme Court on that case and they say, oh yeah, you were treated poorly. And I will happily say I was wrong. Supreme Court's right. I don't think that's a likely outcome, but it's certainly possible. Certainly possible. That being said, the doom pilling and black pilling for this stream is over. We're now into hype or hope pills. Whatever you want to call it. And I think my stream title is apt. The Great White Hype was a parody movie of The Great White Hope. But I think that's kind of an accurate representation of what they're doing. They're creating opponents. They're creating contenders, and now here you go. Here you go. So let's do these super chats that have come in early, and then we will do this Pennsylvania case, which is very interesting. I'll recap what happened today, and we'll talk about the case, and then we'll go into this Pennsylvania hearing, because I want to see what was going on. All right? Okay. And then you guys can all make fun of me too. That's fine. Send me all of your insults. Frederick Little says, hey, Nick, to you, Lady Rackets, and the rest of your family, as well as everyone in the chat, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And Frederick Little, you too, buddy. By the way, I will be smoking a turkey tomorrow. I've never done this. I'm smoking a whole bird. And if you're a member of the Patreon or Subscribe Star or have Discord access, or I think $5 plus member on YouTube as well, I will be doing a Cooking with Rackets. You can watch me season the bird, throw it on the smoker, all of that good stuff. I'll probably make some mashed potatoes and stuff too. Since the bird's gonna smoke for like 7 hours, you probably can't watch the whole thing, but it'll be fun. I'll hang out, have some whiskey, because I'm not going anywhere tomorrow, and we'll do that. We'll do that. But that'll be fun. So come join if you are available tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what time it'll start. Probably before noon, because I've got to, like I said, the bird's got to smoke like 7 hours. It'll be good times. Socialism is for figs. Says, Nick, you jumped off the Trump train. You do not get to hop back on. The train has no stops. So go pound sand, and you cooler doomer. You're the worst lawyer in history and would never be on an all-star legal team, you doomer. Damn. I'll take it. Mithrin Emrys says the GOP mainstays are at a point of wanting to go back to business as usual, while Biden is opening the floodgates to refill the swamp. Politicians just want Trump to go away, and big tech will memory hole him ASAP. Let me point out, because there was some confusion, I think based on yesterday's show, that someone on Twitter reached out and they said, hey, what happened to you? Why do you think Trump should go away? Why do I think Trump should leave, should vanish? And I want to clarify, I didn't say that Trump should vanish. I know that's an opinion out there among some Republicans. Are like, okay, if he just gets out of the way now and other people can come in. That's never been my position ever. I think that big tech will remove Trump from public view. I mentioned it yesterday with Uncivil Law. I mentioned it the day before with Mark Kern. Both of them disagreed with me a little bit, I believe. Mark Kern believes that they will keep him as a punching bag or something like that, which is fine. Again, we're just chatting. We're just throwing bones out and seeing where they land. I've never said Trump should leave the public space. I don't think that's true. I think Trump should fight every day that he has available to fight. I just think that big tech will likely strike out against him very soon. And by the way, if you think big tech ain't coming for everybody, the reaping is coming fast. OAN was removed from YouTube today, if I heard that right. We also had the guy in Pennsylvania doing the hearing, Colonel whoever, was just banned from Twitter for apparently no reason. Sidney Powell was banned from Twitter the other day, or she had a 12-hour suspension, something like that. Can't figure out why. They're coming. They're coming, and they're going to come out hard, especially if Biden ends up being the ultimate victor here. OAN is up. Maybe they're back up there. But I saw news reports earlier that they were banned from YouTube. So yeah, but that's the difference. Like I said, I don't think Trump should go away. In fact, what I want Trump to do, if he does ultimately lose the election, I want him to start a media company and compete with Twitter, with Facebook, with whoever, with Fox News. I want to see him create the best, most tremendous media platform ever. I think he could build something riding on a wave of half the country, which, by the way, half the country's a lot of customers supporting him. He could build a very successful media company very quickly that would have immense amounts of clout. Or he could sign on to and endorse something like One American News or Parler or whatever. I don't know what he wants to do, but Trump has that opportunity remaining. I think that would be great too. I would rather us figure out this election thing, and if there's fraud that he wins the presidency, I would much rather that happen. But I'll take as a second, in the event that he's not able to win, a media company. And in either case, I'll take in 4 years a media company. So, yeah, I hear that Sidney Powell's suit is out. So I'll see if I can find it. Let me see. Sidney Powell files lawsuit in Georgia. That's a YouTube video. Promises massive lawsuit. I don't know if anybody's got a link to that. We can take it. We can take a look. Biden, I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I had some extra time this week. It's also Thanksgiving week. And lots of people were locked down from Corona, so I wanted to try out some daytime shows. They've been great. You sent it to my Twitter? Thank you. Thank you, Random Blaze. Pull it up here. "104 pages, of course." We've got it. Let's see. We'll take a look at this action in a little bit. I don't know if we're going to read through all 104 pages today. We've got a lot to cover. So that might be a lot, but we'll take a look at it. Let's see. "Socialism is for figs" says this whole election was unconstitutional. So what's a few more months of unconstitutional BS? He also says Sidney lawsuit is out now. Please read. And Cledge Fenrir says heard CNN is for sale. So Trump could buy that. That'd be hilarious. That would be hilarious. TV Goes Live says, "Guys, I'm sorry, but Christmas is canceled. I asked Santa for an RTX 3070 Founders Edition for Christmas, and he literally died laughing. Rip Santa, pour out a 40 of eggnog flavored beer for a fallen homie." Also, yes, Donald Trump, if I didn't say it earlier, because I'm losing track of what I said, Donald Trump pardoned Michael Flynn today, which is very big news for Michael Flynn. Of course, he is now pardoned, and that is his legal saga will come to an end, which is great. I'm sure he would have rather just won his dismissal than be pardoned. But my minor, like, little eighth of a doom pill that I have to give you is that you have to bear in mind that if Trump was planning on winning the election, there would be no reason to pardon Flynn or Paul Manafort or Steve Bannon or any of these guys now. He could wait till after the election. I think he's hedging, or after the inauguration. I think he's hedging a little bit, I'm not saying that he thinks he's going to lose or anything like that, but it is contraindicative of confidence in winning. I got to point it out because I said it the other day that if he does, that it might indicate that he's not quite sure he's going to win. But that being said, ultimately seems to be a good thing because if there's one question that's easy to say in all of the past several months, it's that Michael Flynn got fucked over by the Democrats, and specifically by the Democrats. And what they did to him should be offensive to everybody in this country who cares about justice in any capacity at all. They flat out created a situation to put him in jail, and that is and it was bogus from jump. All right, we've got Squishy Hunter says 1776 will commence shortly. Please stand by. Bad Vibe says Nick smokes turkey for the tryptophan power nappage. Oh God, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. If you're here, please hit like. It does help the show quite a bit. I don't say it enough. Please go ahead and hit like. Like Jeb. Like Jeb. Please like. Please like. And one thing I do want to do a little bit later, we'll have a break for a non-sponsored break, but for the Kickstarter program that I mentioned yesterday. I would love to ask people to just take a look at it again. It's really close to funding, and I'm really trying to help push them over the edge. 2 people who might be interested. We'll do that a little bit later. No, they're not paying me. It's just a personal friend of mine who's doing it, and so I'm trying to help him out. That's all. So we'll do that a little bit later. Let's take a look. What should we do? Should we do Sidney Powell's lawsuit first, I guess? Or should we look at this other really, really damn interesting Pennsylvania suit? I guess we got to look at the Powell one, right? Because it's new? Is that how the internet works? You'll only like if I drink? Oh, I'm drinking today, buddy. Sidney Powell, should we look at this Kraken? Let's get crack-a-lackin' with the Kraken. Someone needs to help her out with messaging because that shit is kind of embarrassing. All right, let's get some liquor going. Let's get some liquor going. We're in Georgia. Got Sidney Powell, we got a Kraken. Come on now. What? Oh, I have one shot of Lagavulin 12 left. We're doing it. We'll start there. All right. This is Doom Pill in a glass, baby. It better be rum. I don't like rum that much. This is 60% peaty bog fire, baby. All right. Yes, there is Kraken rum. I don't have any because I don't like rum. So, but it does exist. Okay. Nature of the action. So this is Sidney Powell's case, brought on behalf of Corico Jaquan Pearson, Vicky Townsend Consiglio, Gloria K. Godwin, James Kenneth Carroll, Carolyn Hall Fisher, Kathleen Alston Latham, and Brian J. Van Gundy. Okie dokie. We've got declaratory emergency permanent injunctive relief. The nature of the action. This civil action brings to light a massive election fraud, multiple violations of Georgia laws, including Georgia law section some sections. I'm not going to read all the numbers because it gets annoying. And multiple constitutional violations as shown by fact witnesses to specific incidents, multiple expert witnesses, and the sheer mathematical impossibilities found in the Georgia 2020 general election. As a civil action, the plaintiff's burden of proof is a preponderance of the evidence to show, as the Georgia Supreme Court has made clear, one was not incumbent upon plaintiff to show how the voters would have voted if their absentee ballots had been regular. Plaintiff only had to show that there were enough irregular ballots to place in doubt the result, and that's Meade versus Sheffield, 2004, citing Howell versus Fears in 2002. We have a footnote here. The same pattern of election fraud and voter fraud writ large occurred in all the swing states with only minor variations. See expert reports regarding Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Wisconsin. Indeed, we believe that in Arizona, at least 35,000 votes were illegally added to Mr. Biden's vote count. So, big claims. We'll have to see. I hope her evidence is better than Lynn Wood's. That's all I'm saying. The scheme and artifice to defraud was for the purpose of illegally and fraudulently manipulating the vote count to make certain the election of Joe Biden as president of the United States. The fraud was executed by many means. By the way, guys, you know what's great? For all this talk about how elections can't be changed by software, that's the big thing now. Oh, Dominion couldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. Do you guys know there's a very popular TV show that has been lauded by all of the right people for being woke because it starred a black woman, that centered around this very happening? Like, that this was the central tying theme to all of the main characters? It's called Scandal. And it was literally, they stole a presidential election by using software to manipulate ballots. The fact that this is now like some way out there theory and not literally how you would just do it was is mind-blowing. Of course you would do it that way. It's if you control the machine and everybody trusts the machines, you just manipulate the votes. Anyway, I was thinking about that the other day because Lady Rackets used to watch Scandal with me, and oh my goodness, I forgot to show you guys something, and I'm supposed to. Where did it go? Short Round is a friend of the show. He has been on the show before, and he sent me something today that I must share. I must share a picture with you guys. It won't take long. I just got to grab it real quick. Go. Short Round sent me some of these. And I've included a Lady Rackets for scale. There you go. Look at these flags. They're giant. So that's Lady Rackets next to some Rekieta Law flags that Short Round has sent. So thank you. Big thank you to Short Round. She looks tiny. Cracks me up every time. So okay, here we go. Back to the lawsuit. Back to the Kraken, the unleashed Kraken. Oh, DeWall says these judges are elected in Democratic Marxist areas. Behind closed doors, they are pocket Pol Pots. This was Razorfist statements about it, or consistent with Razorfist statements about it as well. Trump's team has to go about this very peculiar public manner to make these judges want to appear to be constitutionalist. Yeah, I think that's very close to what Razor was saying. Are they purchasable? Yes. I think so. But I don't have the website handy. Let me see if I can get the current website. I don't sell them. So I've asked for a link to the store that does sell them. I don't remember what the link is off the top of my head. So but yeah, as soon as he gets back to me, I'll let you know. I believe they are purchasable. Along with several other very great things. He is a great store. Lots of fun products. Okay, the fraud was executed by many means. But footnote 50 USC 20701 requires retention and preservation of records and papers by officers of elections, deposit with the custodian, penalty for violation, but as will be shown, a wide pattern of misconduct with ballots show preservation of elected records have not been kept. That was a big one, right? Up in, I think in Pennsylvania, they had Delaware County. They said, oh, we have no chain of custody records at all. Huh? Just nothing. We don't know where they went. We don't have chain of custody records on our chain of custody records, so who knows where they are. And Dominion logs are only voluntary with no system-wide preservation system, because of course they are. Of course they are. The fraud was executed by many means, but the most fundamentally troubling, insidious, and egregious is the systemic adaptation of old-fashioned ballot stuffing. It has now been amplified and rendered virtually invisible by computer software created and run by domestic and foreign actors for that very purpose. Mathematical and statistical anomalies rising to the level of impossibilities, as shown by affidavits of multiple witnesses, documentation, and expert testimony, evince this scheme across the state of Georgia. Especially egregious conduct arose in Forsyth, Paulding, Cherokee, Hall, and Barrow County. This scheme and artifice to defraud affected tens of thousands of votes in Georgia alone and rigged the election in Georgia for Joe Biden. So we got to be careful on all of this, not to get too wrapped up in the red meat, because there will be the same complicated and fatal legal questions of standing. Now, Linwood sued on a theory that his vote was diluted by the addition of unlawful votes, which, as much as that sounds like a court should immediately take up that case and say, whoa, a bunch of unlawful votes. As much as it sounds like that, Linwood's case set him at the same level of injury as every other Georgia voter, which is why he didn't have standing. We won't be able to assess the standing argument in this case until we get to the section about the parties. So we're going to keep that in mind. The massive fraud begins with the election software and hardware from Dominion Voting Systems Corporation, only recently purchased and rushed into use by defendants Governor Brian Kemp, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and the Georgia Board of Elections. Sequoia voting machines were used in 16 states and the District of Columbia in 2006. Smartmatic, which has revenue of about $100 million, focuses on Venezuela and other markets outside of the U.S. Now, here's a link to the Wall Street Journal article. Smartmatic to sell U.S. unit and probe into Venezuelan links. They listed 3 things here, but they haven't explained how those things all go together. They've got Dominion, then they've got Sequoia voting machines. Presumably those are Dominion. And then Smartmatic focuses on Venezuela and other markets. Is this a subsidiary of Dominion? Is it a parent company? Maybe they'll lay it out. I don't know. After selling Sequoia, Smartmatic's chief executive, Anthony Mujica, Mr. Mujica said, "This is not a sentence." After selling Sequoia, Smartmatic's chief executive, Anthony Mujica. Okay. Mr. Mujica said he hoped Smartmatic would work with Sequoia on projects in the U.S., though Smartmatic wouldn't take an equity stake. So, there you go. And then this is, I guess, a citation back to this footnote. I would have footnoted this and it'd in the footnotes, but, weird. Smartmatic, minor criticism. Smartmatic and Dominion were founded by foreign oligarchs and dictators to ensure computerized ballot stuffing and vote manipulation to whatever level was needed to make certain Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez never lost another election. See redacted whistleblower affiant attached as Exhibit 2. Oh, who is this? Notably, Chavez won every election thereafter. As set forth in the accompanying Look, everybody in Venezuela just loved him. As set forth in the accompanying whistleblower affidavit, the Smartmatic software was designed to manipulate Venezuelan elections in favor of dictator Hugo Chavez. Smartmatic's electoral technology was called Sistema de Gestión Electoral, the electoral management system. Smartmatic was a pioneer in this area of computing systems. Their system provided for transmission of voting data over the internet to a computerized central tabulating center. The voting machines themselves had a digital display, fingerprint recognition feature to identify the voter, and printed out the voter's ballot. The voter's thumbprint was linked to a computerized record of that voter's identity. Smartmatic created and operated the entire system. That I don't believe has anything to do with U.S. elections, because we can't do that. That would be illegal. And there's and again, minor criticisms. It depends on how she brings this stuff into the argument, but it happening in Venezuela does not mean that it happened in the United States, and actually introducing that as evidence may be problematic because it goes against the federal rules, but we'll see. We'll see. You are butchering all these Spanish last names. They deserve to be butchered. Now that Hugo Chavez is gone, someone has to do the butchering, and Nicolas Maduro is not doing it fast enough. A core requirement of the Smartmatic software design was the software's ability to hide its manipulation of votes from any audit. As the whistleblower explains, Chavez sounds more fun than Chavez. So Chavez, if he's French, was most insistent that Smartmatic design the system in a way that the system could change the vote of each voter without being detected. He wanted the software itself to function in such a manner that if the voter were to place their thumbprint or fingerprint on a scanner, then the thumbprint would be tied to a record of the voter's name and identity as having voted, but that voter would not be tracked to the changed vote. He made it clear that the system would have to be set up to not leave any evidence of the changed vote for a specific voter, and that there would be no evidence to show and nothing to contradict that the name or the fingerprint or thumbprint was going with a changed vote. Smartmatic agreed to create such a system and produce the software and hardware that accomplished that result for President Chavez. So this is Exhibit 3, Affidavit of Cardozo, attached here too. So again, the problem with this is we don't have that sort of tracing to a particular voter. So that is a different system entirely than what we use. And if your argument is there's no evidence because they wrote it to create no evidence, that's not going to fly. I'm guessing they've got more, but we'll see. The design and features of the Dominion software do not permit a simple audit to reveal its misallocation, redistribution, or deletion of votes. First, the system's central accumulator does not include a protected real-time audit log that maintains the date and timestamps of all significant election events. Key components of the system utilize unprotected logs. Essentially, this allows an unauthorized user the opportunity to arbitrarily add, modify, or remove log entries, causing the machine to log election events that do not reflect actual voting tabulations, or more specifically, do not reflect the actual votes of or the will of the people. So we've got a couple declarations supporting that. Indeed, under the professional standards within the industry in auditing and forensic analysis, when a log is unprotected and can be altered, it can no longer serve the purpose of an audit log. There's incontrovertible physical evidence that the standards of physical security of the voting machines in the software were breached, and machines were connected to the internet in violation of professional standards and state and federal laws. See these declarations from 2019. Okay. That's a weird... How can a declaration from 2019 attest to the fact that the machines were plugged into the internet for the 2020 election? I'm very confused on that. Very confused on that. Mike Mysterio 13 says, hey, Rackets, I wanted to shill a GoFundMe for my friend's niece that passed away. It would mean a lot of people could contribute. She was only 16 months old. You can. It has the same policy of all my other GoFundMe shilling, which would be, you tell me what it is and I will read it like normal, but I can't endorse it. I don't know anything about it, unfortunately. That sounds awful, though, and they will be in my prayers forever. Moreover, lies and conduct of Fulton County election workers about a delay in voting at State Farm Arena and the reasons for it evince the fraud. This is, of course, a big question. 1 second it was a water main break that made everybody have to leave, and then the next second it was a leaky toilet somewhere else. Specifically, video from the State Farm Arena in Fulton County shows that on November 3rd, after the polls closed, election workers falsely claimed a water leak required the facility to close. All poll workers and challengers were evacuated for several hours at about 10 p.m. However, several election workers remained unsupervised and unchallenged working at the computers for the voting tabulation machines until after 1 a.m. Defendants Kemp and Raffensperger rushed through the purchase of Dominion voting machines and software in 2019 for the 2020 presidential election. A certificate from the Secretary of State was awarded to Dominion voting systems but is undated. Similarly, a test report is signed by Michael Walker as project manager but is also undated. Now, Kemp and Raffensperger are both Republicans. So that runs counter to the narrative that they're cheating on behalf of the Democrats. Not sure how they're going to reconcile the common sense sort of approach, or how they're going to lay at the, like, what is the motivation of these people to engage in the cheating? Maybe they have something. I don't know. It's interesting. Of course, I have to point something out. If Joe Biden won, if Donald Trump won and Joe Biden lost Georgia by 10,000 votes, the Democrats would absolutely be blaming Brian Kemp and Raffensperger for the loss and bringing these exact same arguments. Of course they would. Do you know how I know they would? Because they did before the election occurred. Before the election occurred, the Democrats were saying all of this was going to happen. They just were priming the pump that Trump was going to be the one that won, and that they would have to be making the arguments that Trump is now making. So, I get that they're rhinos. It's just, but it doesn't matter if we think they're rhinos. What matters is, what narrative are they going to be able to convince the court of? And that is a contra narrative. So it's just something to keep in mind. They disregarded all the concerns that caused Dominion software to be rejected by the Texas Board of Elections in 2018, namely that it was vulnerable to undetected and non-auditable manipulation. An industry expert, Dr. Andrew Appel, Princeton professor of computer science and election security expert, has recently observed with reference to Dominion voting machines, quote, I figured out how to make a slightly different computer program that just before the polls were closed, it switches some votes around from one candidate to another. I wrote that computer program into a memory chip, and now to hack a voting machine, you need just 7 minutes alone with it and a screwdriver. And he's got the exhibits of that. I believe that's also on a YouTube video that you can check. Full unredacted copies of all exhibits have been filed under seal with the court, and plaintiffs have simultaneously moved for a protective order. So they are protecting their witnesses here, and we won't be able to see all of the affidavits. L Knight VA says, hey, Nick, I super hate to ask, but could you please share this? My family needs all the help because my niece recently passed. I can't see links through here. Thank you, Mike. Again, how are you going to send it to me? Did you tweet it to me or something? Send me a DM? Maybe. Stooge Muffin Stuffin says, I've never watched Gundam before in my life, so I decided to go down the rabbit hole, starting with Thunderbolt OVA, then the OG series, then the Origin OVA. I plan to watch all of the UC series. Wish me luck. Well, good luck, man. You're in for a lot of Gundam. All right, Angry Baneling is sending the GoFundMe for the niece's funeral. If you want to check it out, it's Angry Baneling is sharing it in the chat. So I encourage you to take a look at it, and if it's something that you're compelled to help out with, please do. Please do. As explained and demonstrated in the accompanying redacted declaration of a former electronic intelligence analyst under the 305th Military Intelligence with experience gathering SAM missile system electronic intelligence, the Dominion software was accessed by agents acting on behalf of China and Iran in order to monitor and manipulate elections, including the most recent U.S. general election in 2020. This declaration further includes a copy of the patent records for Dominion systems, in which Eric Coomer is listed as the first of the inventors of Dominion voting systems. And then we have Exhibit 8, copy of redacted witness affidavit, 17 pages. So we've got a military intelligence officer. It's redacted probably because his identity is not supposed to be public as an intelligence officer. But so I don't know if we'll be able to read it, but there you go. Expert, oh, Jesus Christ. Naveed Kashavarez Nia explains that U.S. intelligence services had developed tools to infiltrate foreign voting systems, including Dominion. He states that Dominion software is vulnerable to data manipulation by unauthorized means and permitted election data to be altered in all battleground states. He concludes that hundreds of thousands of votes that were cast for Trump in the 2020 general election were transferred to former Vice President Biden. Now, there is a solution to this. I don't know if they'll go with it, but it's a hand recount. A hand recount and then checking those numbers against what the machines reported. I know Georgia did a hand recount, but the hand recount in Georgia was running them back through the machines. So the question would be doing a manual count with no machines involved at all and seeing if it matched up. Additionally, incontrovertible evidence Board of Election Records demonstrates that at least 96,600 absentee ballots were requested and counted, but were never recorded as being returned to county election boards by the voter. Thus, at minimum, 96,600 votes must be disregarded. Okay, so this is interesting. So these votes were requested and counted, but were never recorded as being returned to the county election boards by the voter. So they just got ballots somehow. Pretty interesting accusation there. The Dominion system used in Georgia erodes and undermines the reconciliation of the number of voters and the number of ballots cast, such that these figures are permitted to be unreconciled, opening the door to ballot stuffing and fraud. The collapse of reconciliation was seen in Georgia's primary and runoff elections this year, and in the November election, where it was discovered during the hand audit that 3,300 votes were found on memory sticks that were not uploaded on election night. Plus, in Floyd County, another 2,600 absentee ballots had not been scanned. These found votes reduced Biden's lead over Donald Trump. Yes, but these, just pointing out a counter argument, these two numbers don't have anything to do with this number or any other numbers. I mean, they have, whether or not the explanations are true, they have explanations that are at least plausible for those two things. And it doesn't automatically follow that there's fraud from there, but we will persist. Mr. Wonderful, there is no such thing as a new election. You should probably get out of your head the idea that there will be a redo of the presidential election. It is basically unconstitutional. So they won't do that. This is not a doom pill. It's not a doom pill. It's a minor counter argument. The remedy is not a new election. The remedy is either some sort of verification of the existing vote, or if that is impossible, to prevent certification and force the state legislature to choose. All right? That is, I'm just saying that a redo of the election is outside of the remedies available to the court. So they have to choose some other way to remedy this. Georgia's election officials and poll workers exacerbated and helped, whether knowingly or unknowingly, the Dominion system carry out massive voter manipulation by refusing to observe statutory safeguards for absentee ballots. Election officials failed to verify signatures and check security envelopes. They barred challengers from observing the count, which also facilitated the fraud. Expert analysis of the actual vote set forth below demonstrates that at least 96,600 votes were illegally counted during the Georgia 2020 general election. All of the evidence and allegation herein is more than sufficient to place the results of the election in doubt. More evidence arrives by the day, and discovery should be ordered immediately. Georgia law provides for a contest of an election where 1. Misconduct, fraud, or irregularity by any primary or election official or officials sufficient to change or place in doubt the result. 3. 2 wasn't important, apparently. When illegal votes have been received or legal votes rejected at the polls sufficient to change or place in doubt the result. 4. For any error in counting the votes or declaring the result of the primary or election if such error would change the result. Or 5. For any other cause which shows that another was the person legally nominated, elected, or eligible to compete in a runoff, primary, or election. As further set forth below, all of the above grounds have been satisfied and compel this court to set aside the 2020 general election results, which fraudulently concluded that Mr. Biden defeated President Trump by 12,670 votes. Notice they're not asking for a redo. They're asking to set aside the election results. That is the proper remedy. It's also really, really scary for a court. And that's one of the problems I've been talking about this whole time is you're asking a court to invalidate the votes. And that's a tall, tall order. Oh my God. All right, I don't have any Georgia liquor, but I do have this Old Forester Prohibition style 1920 Kentucky bourbon. I don't think you guys understand. Someone asked if I died from that sneeze. When your nose is this large, sneezing is a real dangerous proposition. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Jillian Seed, yeah, this is a fantastic whiskey. I really like it. I really like it. Okay. Separately and independently, there are sufficient constitutional grounds to set aside the election results due to the defendant's failure to observe statutory requirements for the processing and counting of absentee ballots, which led to the tabulation of more than 50,000 illegal ballots. The parties. So here we have the plaintiffs. Oh my goodness. Oh my. So itchy. I just got allergy shots. I should be alive, but I'm dying. I'm dying. Lots of cocaine. All right. I'm gonna put this down. It's all in my way. It's all in my way. The parties. I'm not going to say the name. C.J. Pearson is a registered voter who resides in Augusta. He's a nominee of the Republican Party to be a presidential elector on behalf of the state of Georgia. He is standing to bring this action under Carson versus Simon. Ooh, that's a 2020 decision. Okay. He brings this action to set aside and decertify the election results for the office of President of the United States that was certified by the Georgia Secretary of State on November 20th, 2020. The certified results showed a plurality of 12,670 votes in favor of former President Joe Biden over President Trump. That's weird. It doesn't show a... Is that the right use of plurality? Because he didn't win a plurality of Georgia, I don't think. I thought he won a majority. Maybe not. Maybe it was under 50%. Plaintiff Vicky Townsend Consiglio is a registered voter who resides in Henry County, Georgia. She's a nominee of the Republican Party to be an elector. So these are the electors, the nominated electors for the Republicans. That's who all of these are. And then plaintiff Brian J. Van Gundy is a registered voter in Gwinnett County. He's the Assistant Secretary of the Georgia Republican Party. Defendant Governor Brian Kemp is named here in his official capacity as the governor of the state of Georgia. He bought the new Dominion voting systems for Georgia, budgeting $150 million. Critics are quoted, led by Abrams Democrats, fought the legislation and pointed to cybersecurity experts who warned it would leave Georgia's election susceptible to hacking and tampering. Look at that. Again, Democrats would be making this exact same argument in Georgia if the tables were reversed. And the evidence of that is they were already making the arguments ahead of the election. Okay, so Georgia was a plurality, 49.5%. Thank you. Thank you. And just this week, the Fair Fight voting rights group started by Stacey Abrams launched a television ad critical of the bill. In a statement Thursday, the group called it corruption at its worst and a waste of money on hackable voting machines. So there you go. That was just way back in the ancient history of June 2019, back before cars and microwaves and the television had infiltrated homes. Defendant Raffensperger is named here in his official capacity. He's a chief election officer for the state of Georgia. He serves as the chairperson of Georgia State Election Board, which promulgates and enforces rules and regulations. Blah, blah, blah. And then Rebecca Sullivan, David Worley, Matthew Mashburn, and An Lee. Oh, hey, another An Lee, but not the An Lee from Texas. Hereinafter, the State Election Board are members of the State Election Board in Georgia, responsible for formulating, adopting, and promulgating such rules, regulations consistent with the laws will be conducive to the fair, legal, and orderly conduct of primaries and elections. Further, State Election Board, blah, blah, blah. Jurisdiction and venue. Court has subject matter jurisdiction under 28 U.S.C. 1331, which provides district courts shall have original jurisdiction of all civil actions arising under the Constitution, laws, or treaties of the U.S. Also subject matter jurisdiction because this action involves a federal election for president of the United States. This does not automatically mean that the federal courts have jurisdiction, actually. If it's entirely a question of state law, even relating to a federal election, but they have a significant departure from the legislative scheme for appointing presidential electors presents a federal constitutional question. That's Bush v. Gore. But that's only if they properly allege the departure from the legislative scheme. So, which I'm going to assume that they did. This also educational. Because up in Pennsylvania, they have a action that involves the federal election for president of the United States, and it is entirely Pennsylvania law, specifically regarding the Pennsylvania Constitution, and therefore does not raise a federal constitutional question, most likely. Jurisdiction of the court to grant declaratory relief, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Because the United States Constitution reserves for state legislatures the power to set time, place, and manner, holding elections for Congress and the president, state executive officers, including but not limited to Secretary Ravensburger, have no authority to exercise that power unilaterally, much less flout existing legislation or the Constitution itself. So this is part of their federal question, is that Raffensperger, they're saying, created some rules that that's not allowed. It's not allowed for him to do that as Secretary of State. Statement of facts. Oh boy. We read the state of the case earlier. Excuse me. I am yawning so much. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Michigan dropped a lawsuit in Michigan from who? Is it a Sidney Powell lawsuit in Michigan too? Well, there you go. Content for years. Content for years. We won't get to that one tonight, I promise. Let me take a brief moment for a word from our non-sponsor. And this will be short, I promise. Hold on, I gotta this is a Kickstarter which I am asking people to take a look at. It is this Kickstarter for Wizards and Relics. They have 7 days to go. They're almost to their $15,000 goal. This is a card game. It's a card game. It's made by someone that I know personally. So I trust that it is a legit campaign. In fact, I have a proof copy. It's got old art on it, so I don't want to show it too much, but I have the proof copy right here. This is a legit project, and it is really a labor of love for an aspiring set of game creators. So if people want to take a look at this, it's a card game that it's listed as 14 plus. I don't know if that's actually accurate. It's probably around 10 plus or so, but it's a great game to play with kids, with young adults. It's fast. You're not going to be there all. This is my problem with games today. It's like, oh, do you want to play a game? Sure. I'll sacrifice the next 8 freaking weeks of my life to sit down and play a damn game. This game is 20 to 40 minutes long, depending if you have 2 to 4 players. And it basically involves, it's a deck game, right? You got some random cards and there's some strategy involved in playing it out. It plays out a lot like the old card game War, where you're laying down cards against your opponent and trying to basically have the stronger hand. So, here you go. You can pledge in at $1 if you want, or you pledge without a reward, but that's boring. $25 gets you the game, any unlocked stretch goals that they do, and full print and play with all relevant stretch goals, which I guess means you can print it at home too, along with your actual premium edition game. There's a higher tier which gets your name immortalized on the map insert, so you can be a part of the founding of the game and have your name recognized. If you want to go full super grift, $345 or more is a master wizard tier, and this is where you become one of the cards in the game. So, by the way, one of my family members is one of the cards in the game. So if you wanna own a little piece of Racket's joy, and by the way, this family member would be overjoyed to have this campaign fulfill. But one of the Racklings, I'll say, is one of the wizards. So if you want to participate in that, you can as well. It's a fun game, and again, the guys behind it are really nice people, and they're trying to be game developers. They've got a lot more to come, by the way. And I, as an independent creator, fully support independent creation as much as possible, as much as I can verify and trust. So I would ask your consideration as well. I'll share the link in the chat. I think Angry Baneling already is. But yeah, if you want to take a look at it, please do so. Wizards and Relics. And again, I won't bother you with it again today, but I will bother you with it again next show until it funds. Once it funds, I'm done talking about it. Maybe that's the blackmail. There were no black pills. There were only black males. and all Piper Perry could do was salivate. I'm just kidding. Oh my goodness, poor Piper Perry. How have I besmirched her name? All right, back to this. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Come on. Somebody's got to buy in just for that joke because it was great. Just for that joke because it was great. Okay. All right. We're in the statement of facts. We're in the text, y'all. We're in the text. So plaintiffs bring this action under sections 1983 and 1988 and some Georgia laws as well. U.S. Constitution sets forth the authority to regulate federal elections. It provides the time, places, and manners of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as the places of choosing senators. U.S. Constitutional Article 1, Section 4. Now, this is just senators and representatives. They also have the electors being chosen later in the executive branch. Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 4, I believe. That's neither here nor there. Nexi says, think on this. In less than 4 weeks, Trump has done more to delegitimize his opponent's victories than they have ever done to any of his and energies and strategies. The next election, regardless of this outcome, beautiful. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, they picked a shit narrative 4 years ago, and that was that Russia was able to somehow, through like 8 Facebook ads, delegitimize the election. That was their angle. Like, as much shit as I've been giving the Trump legal team over the past couple days, let's not let it be lost that the Democrat angle was that I think Facebook ads that reached less than 1 million people total totally convinced everyone to vote for Trump, even though most of the ads didn't have anything to do with Trump and were on ancillary issues. That was their big gambit. Oh, and a Chris Steele dossier with Ukrainian hookers peeing on Trump in a hotel. Which most people would go, I mean, I guess if that's what you're into. When did the left start kink shaming? That's what I want to know. Reverend Brandon War says, is this card game you shill anything like Cones of Dunshire? I have no idea what Cones of Dunshire is. Finish reading, you ADHD crackhead. Stop sending me sexy texts, salty grunt, and maybe I can. With respect to the appointment of presidential electors, the Constitution provides each state shall appoint blah, blah, blah. That's what I just said. Article 2, Section 1. It's also Paragraph 4. Neither defendant is a legislature as required under the Elections Clause or Electors Clause. Legislature is a representative body which makes the laws of the people. Regulations of congressional and presidential elections thus must be in accordance with the method which the state has prescribed for legislative enactments. Now, interestingly, and I don't know what Georgia has done, but it is possible for the state legislature to delegate that duty, potentially possible, to delegate that duty to the state executive branch, which would then fall under the auspices of the Board of Elections and therefore the Secretary of State. I don't know. I'm pointing out counter arguments that will likely be made. I don't know if they're good. I don't know I'm not an expert on Georgia election law, shockingly. Jared Frost says, hey, Nick, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And congratulations on having 3 times as many viewers right now as Joe 80 million votes Biden had for his Thanksgiving address. Maybe you should run for office. Look, that's the biggest evidence of fraud so far. There has never been a less exciting candidate for well, there has. Bob Dole was a less exciting candidate for president than Joe Biden, but it's hard to think of one in recent memory. No one is excited about a Joe Biden anything. And they're certainly not excited about a Joe Biden sniff. While the Elections Clause was not adopted to diminish a state's authority to determine its own lawmaking processes, it does hold states accountable to their chosen processes when it comes to regulating federal elections. A significant departure from the legislative scheme for appointing presidential electors presents a federal constitutional question. That's from Bush v. Gore. Plaintiffs also bring this action under Georgia law. Grounds for contest. Results of a primary or election may be contested on one or more of the following grounds. We read these earlier. I'm skipping it. Presidential electors are elected. Okay. Georgia legislature instructed the county registrars and clerks. I'm so itchy. I hate it. I just got my shot. It's not working. I suffered through needles for you. The Georgia legislature instructed the county registrars and clerks to handle the absentee ballots as directed therein. The Georgia legislature set forth the procedures to be used by each municipality for appointing the absentee ballot clerks to ensure that such clerks would perform the duties set forth in this article. The Georgia Election Code instructs those who handle absentee ballots to follow a clear procedure. Upon receipt of each absentee ballot, a registrar or clerk shall write the day and hour of the receipt on the ballot on its envelope. The registrar or clerk shall then compare the identifying information on the oath with the information on file in his or her office, shall compare the signature or make the oath on the oath with the signature or mark on the absentee elector's voter card or the most recent update to such absentee elector's voter registration card and application for absentee ballot or a facsimile of said signature or marker taken from said card or application, and shall, if the information and signature appear to be valid and other identifying information appears to be correct, so certify by signing or initialing his or her name below the voter's oath. Each elector's name so certified shall be listed by the registrar or clerk on the numbered list of absentee voters prepared for his or her precinct. Oh my gosh, guys. I was in the store the other day, and they have a new series of Transformers toys, The War for Cybertron, and they're like slightly higher quality or higher resolution versions of the old Transformers toys. Like, they're the same ones. They're not some new weird animation style or whatever. And they have Micromasters are back. Micromaster Transformers are back. Sorry, I was thinking of the Micro Machines guy. And then I saw that. Okay. Sorry, just a brief aside. The Georgia legislature also establishes a clear and efficient process to be used by county officials if they determine that an elector has failed to sign the oath on the outside envelope enclosing the ballot, or that the signature does not conform with the signature on file in the registrar's or clerk's office, a defective absentee ballot. Innocuous remarks as, do you ever stop reading halfway through a 3-paragraph sentence and wonder if life would have been better if you'd just been a plumber? Yes! All the time. No, I know it would. Sorry, correction. Life would be better if I had just been a plumber rather than a lawyer. Life is much better as a YouTuber than either of those things. The Georgia legislature also provided for the steps to be followed by county officials with respect to defective absentee ballots. If the elector has failed to sign the oath, or if the signature does not appear to be valid, or if the elector has failed to furnish required information, or information so furnished does not conform with that on file in the registrar's or clerk's office, or if the elector is otherwise found disqualified to vote, the registrar or clerk shall write across the face of the envelope rejected, giving the reason therefore. The board of registrars or absentee ballot clerks shall promptly notify the elector of such rejection, a copy of which notification shall be retained in the files on the board of registrars or absentee ballot clerk for at least 1 year. Okay. Defendants' unauthorized actions violated the Georgia Election Code and caused the processing of defective absentee ballots. We are on page 22. Only 82 to go. Only 82 to go. Hold on. I just want to peek. Is some of these affidavits? Is this all the complaint? Oh my God. We're not going to get through this. There's no way. No way are we going to get through this. Notwithstanding the I could read it all in the Micro Machine Guy's speed. I'll probably die somewhere. Notwithstanding the clarity of the applicable statutes and the constitutional authority for the Georgia legislature's actions, on March 6th, Raffensperger and the state elections board, who administer the state elections, entered into a compromise and settlement agreement and release. This is the same theory. This is the same theory that Lynn Wood brought. And I must not doom pill, but inject a little bit of truth, a truth suppository in this. Lynn Wood was slapped down for lack of standing. However, the judge in Lynn Wood's case went further than the standing argument and basically said that his entire argument and all of the claims were shit, including this one. Now, I don't think this is a shit argument because the Secretary of State does not have the authority to do what they did. That's clear. They don't have it. But the judge in the Lynn Wood case said, your argument is trash. Of course they can. I have to point that out. All right. Blah, blah, blah. Setting forth different standards to be followed by clerks and registrars in processing absentee ballots for the state of Georgia. 8. Under the settlement, however, the administrators agreed to change the statutorily prescribed manner of handling absentee ballots in a manner that is not consistent with the laws promulgated by the Georgia legislature for elections in this state. The settlement provides the Secretary of State would issue an official election bulletin to county administrators overriding the statutory procedures prescribed for these officials. That power, however, does not belong to the Secretary of State under the United States Constitution. Settlement also changed the signature requirement, reducing it to a broad process with discretion, rather than enforcement of the signature requirement as statutorily required. Georgia legislature instructed county registrars and clerks regarding the handling of absentee ballots. Georgia election code instructs those who handle absentee ballots to follow a clear procedure. We just read this. We read this just a second ago. I'm not reading it again. Georgia legislature prescribed procedures to ensure that any request for an absentee ballot. Oh my God, I need sandpaper for my itchy skin. Prescribe procedures to ensure that any request for an absentee ballot must be accompanied by sufficient identification of the elector's identity. Providing in pertinent part, in order to be found eligible to vote, an absentee ballot in person at the registrar's office or an absentee ballot clerk's office, such person shall show one of the forms of identification listed in code section blah, blah, blah. An affiant testified under oath that it was also of particular interest to me to see the signatures were not being verified and there were no corresponding envelopes seen in sight. Okay, so no verification of the signatures was actually occurring, according to the affiant, Mayra Romero. To reflect the very reason for process, it was documented that in the primary election prior to the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election, many ballots got to voters after the election. Further, it was confirmed that untold thousands of absentee ballot requests went unfulfilled, and tens of thousands of mailed ballots were rejected for multiple reasons, including arriving too late to be counted. There you go. Pursuant to the settlement, the administrators delegated their responsibilities for determining when there was a signature mismatch by considering in good faith only partisan-based training, additional guidance and training materials drafted by the Democrat Party agency's representatives, contradicting the law. This was, again, the same argument brought forth by Lynn Wood that the judge of that case said, "This is trash, get out of my courtroom." That doesn't mean it's actually trash, but he did rip Lynn Wood apart in that opinion. I need some Vagisil for that itchy skin. My whole body's a labia. Please help. I don't need lotion if I'm itchy. I have an allergy to heat. That's the itchiness. I'm developing hives right now. I'm like some sort of new modern leper. Please stay away from me. Put me on an island alone so I can die in peace. Javier Miedo, Lynn Wood got his case sent to the Circuit Appeal Court. He did. But he's not going to win there because his case was faulty from jump because he doesn't have standing to bring it in federal court based on the plaintiff he chose, which is himself. That argument, like that part of his case, is bad. It's just bad. But in the United States, and let me segue this into another news story today, In the United States, you are entitled to an appeal. No matter which lower court you chose, you are entitled to the appellate court, at least one step higher than the initial court. Period. You're guaranteed a right to appeal. Big news today, Johnny Depp in the UK was denied his right to appeal. He was denied it. He's not allowed to appeal the decision against him in the United Kingdom. And for just a brief break from election stuff, let me just mention that how that happened was Johnny Depp went before a judge who decided against him. He then had to ask that judge for permission to appeal that judge's order. And shocking everyone, that judge who just said that Johnny Depp's case should be dismissed said, "No, I don't think the appeals court will overturn my order that I just gave you. Therefore, you don't have permission to appeal your decision." The UK is shit. Anytime the UK ever talks to us, the United States, about anything like freedom of speech, freedom of anything, or a superior court system, they can get hollowed out by a bad dragon for all I care. Their system is trash. Imagine having to ask the guy who just ruled against you for permission to say he was wrong. Nah, I don't think I'm going to be wrong. Fuck you. That's just what happened to Johnny Depp. And the poor man should never have sued in the UK. By the way, he was also ordered to pay £630,000 to the UK Sun for them calling him a wife beater over and over, despite the fact that Amber Heard clearly was abusing him. So have fun with that black pill. The UK is cuckery incarnate to a blonde white woman. Oh my God. Lord Shulk, no. British pounds are actually worth more than US dollars. So that's like 720K. Unlawful early processing of absentee ballots. Back to the case. I apologize. In April 2020, the state election board adopted on a purportedly emergency basis Secretary of State Rule 183, 114, 0.9-0.15, processing ballots prior to the election day. Under this rule, county election officials are authorized to begin processing absentee ballots up to 3 weeks before election day. That must have been written by one of the Atlanta attorneys. Thus, the rule provides in part that beginning at 8 a.m. on the third Monday prior to election day, the county election superintendent shall be authorized to open the outer envelope of accepted absentee ballots. This rule is in an irreconcilable conflict with the law, which prohibits the opening of absentee ballots until election day. After the opening of the polls on the day of the primary, election, or runoff, the registrars or absentee ballot clerks shall be authorized to open the outer envelope on which is, so here they have on election day, not 3 weeks prior, on which is printed the oath of the electors in such manner as not to destroy the oath printed thereon, provided, however, that the registrars or absentee ballot clerks shall not be authorized to remove the contents of such outer envelope or to open the inner envelope marked official absentee ballot, except as otherwise provided in this code section. So the law says on election day, that other thing said, the rule promulgated said 3 weeks prior. If anybody was wondering why I was like looking around randomly, that was because I heard a loud thumping noise and I was like, what the hell is that? And I figured it out because I'm a smart. Lady Rackets is stomping on the floor to tell the children who are probably running around like monsters that it's after midnight and they need to go to bed because they were supposed to go to bed hours ago, but children don't do that. So that's what happened there. I'm 99% sure. Either that or she fell off a ladder. In plain terms, the statute clearly prohibits opening absentee ballots prior to election day, while the rule authorized doing so 3 weeks before election day. There is no reconciling this conflict. State Election Board has authority under the law to adopt lawful and legal rules and regulations, but no authority to promulgate a regulation that is directly contrary to an unambiguous statute. This rule is therefore plainly and indisputably unlawful. lawful. And this is very interesting stuff. They haven't said yet, maybe they will, how this particular fact links to any of the problems with ballots coming in that are not authorized or whatever. They haven't said what impact this will have. Remember, one of the key facets of all of this, under Georgia law, to contest an election, they must show that the alleged facts have sufficient impact to cast the results into doubt, which means if you have a margin of votes, in this case, 12,720 votes, you must have a number of ballots in question equal to or greater than that result, because you must be able to presume that that 100% of those ballots would go a particular way. And obviously, the more ballots you have over that amount, the better. But they must show how any of these things specifically get past that. And even if, say they can only do it in one section, then technically speaking, the other party could move for dismissal or even summary judgment of all of the other sections, saying that none of these give them enough votes under these sections to allow for an election challenge under Georgia law. Therefore, we should eliminate these and reduce it down to the only segment that has enough votes to call the election into question. So they can potentially, even if there is one section that has it, if they don't have it spread out across all of them, they could pare down particular sections and say they're not sufficient, which would then limit the amount of attacks that Sidney Powell has. I don't know if they'll do that. They're probably just going to challenge everything outright, but that might be an alternative remedy. It really depends on if they plead that these things resulted in enough ballots and not that they just couch it in one section. The state election board readopted this rule on November 23rd for the upcoming January 2021 runoff election. Oh, good. Good on them. Unlawful audit procedures. Okay, now we're on the audit. According to Secretary Raffensperger, in the presidential general election, 2,457,880 votes were cast in Georgia for President Donald J. Trump. 2,472,002 votes were cast for Joseph R. Biden, which narrowed in Donald Trump's favor after the most recent recount. It's almost a small enough number for Biden to sniff it. I stole it from Razor Fist. He said it funnier, but I am a thief and he can deal with it. If Razor Fist has a problem with me stealing his joke, he can come on my show and tell me to my damn face. Secretary Raffensperger declared that for the hand recount, per the instructions given to I'm kidding, I love that guy. Per the instructions given to counties as they conduct their audit-triggered full hand recounts, designated monitors will be given complete access to observe the process from the beginning. While the audit-triggered recount must be open to the public and media, designated monitors will be able to observe more closely. General public and the press will be restricted to a public viewing area. Designated monitors will be able to watch the recount while standing close to the elections workers conducting the recount. Political parties are allowed to designate a minimum of 2 monitors per county at a ratio of 1 monitor per party for every 10 audit boards in a county. Beyond being able to watch to ensure the recount is conducted fairly and securely, the 2-person audit boards conducting the hand recount call out the votes as they are recounted, providing monitors and the public an additional way to keep tabs on the process. There you go. Edward Elvick says, friend's landlord tried to implement a new lease. He would sacrifice rights to his mobile upon leaving park. Lawyer told him not to sign new lease. Landlord has filed for eviction for not signing. The landlord refused rent. Cool. Thanks for the story. I don't know what you're after. Landlord-tenant law is always really interesting. It's always construed heavily against the landlord, and I would be very surprised if the landlord could do a constructive eviction by trying this during COVID when everybody has said that evictions are unlawful during COVID. So good luck to that landlord. He'll be great. The audit was conducted under the law. This code section requires that audits be completed in public view and authorizes the State Board of Elections to promulgate regulations to administer an audit, quote, to ensure that collection of validly cast ballots is complete, accurate, and trustworthy throughout the audit. Plaintiffs can show that Democrat majority counties provided political parties and candidates, including the Trump campaign, no meaningful access or actual opportunity to review and assess the validity of mail-in ballots during the pre-canvassing meetings. While in the audit or recount, they witnessed Trump votes being put into Biden piles. Damn. Jason of the Great Awakening says, this is hilarious. I tried a prior super chat that said release the Krakens with the proper lettering. With the other letter included, it rejects. Identical as Kraken works fine. No C but K. What a bad AI. There you go. Very weird. Very weird. Non-parties Amanda Coleman and Maria Diedrich are two individuals who volunteered to serve as designated monitors for the Trump presidential campaign on behalf of the Georgia Republican Party at the hand recount, respectively. Are attached are the affidavits of them. Aren't these the ones from before? The two who said they were misrepresented about the time they could show up. Affidavits set forth various conduct amounting to federal crimes, clear improprieties, insufficiencies, and improper handling of ballots by county officials and their employees that Ms. Coleman and Ms. Diedrich personally observed while monitoring the hand recount. As a result of her observations of the hand recount as a Republican Party monitor, Ms. Diedrich declared there had been no meaningful way to review or audit any activity at the hand recount. As a result of their observations of the hand recount as Republican Party monitors, Ms. Coleman likewise declared no way to tell if any counting was accurate or if the activity was proper. On Election Day, when the Republican poll watchers were, for a limited time, present and allowed to observe in various polling locations, they observed and reported numerous instances of election workers failing to follow statutory mandates relating to two critical requirements, among other issues. 1, voters' rights to spoil their mail-in ballot at their polling place on Election Day and then to vote in person. 2, the ability for that's if you cast a mail-in ballot but you want to go vote in person, you can undo your mail-in ballot and vote in person. The ability for voters to vote provisionally on Election Day when a mail-in ballot has already been received for them, but when they did not cast those mail-in ballots, who sought to vote in person during early voting but was told they already voted. She emphasized that she had not. Clerk told her he would add her manually with no explanation as to who or how someone voted using her name. Okay. Where's my liquor? Where is my liqueur? Liquor. Daniel Carmago says this lawsuit gets tremendous later on, guys. Just finished it, worth the wait, and Kraken confirmed. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to hype everyone too much. This one is presumptively better than the Lynn Wood one because Lynn Wood isn't the plaintiff. That alone made it better. They're trying and seem to succeed. Any suggestions? I don't know. Is this in Minnesota, man? You'll have to email me and I can try and give some suggestions. In some counties, there was no actual hand recounting of the ballots during the hand recount, but rather county officials and their employees simply conducted another machine count of the same ballots. That will not reveal the massive fraud of which plaintiffs complain. Now, a potential counter-argument of this, a logical counter-argument of this is, wait, if the software is set to trigger, swapping votes at a certain hour or a certain time, running them back through, and not all of them back through, but only some counties shouldn't produce that same result, especially if the result is randomized and hard to trace. It would only be able to produce the same result if those results were stored somewhere, which would lead you to believe the fact that you could find them again. I mean, that's just how I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But that's, like, to me, that's a weird That's something that I don't see reconciled yet. A large number of ballots were identical and likely fraudulent. An affiant explains that she observed a batch of utterly pristine ballots. Well, she's never seen one of my ballots. My ballots are all pristine. Most of the ballots had already been handled. They had been written on by people and the edges were worn. They showed obvious use. However, one batch stood out. It was pristine. There was a difference in the texture of the paper. It was as if they were intended for absentee use, but had not been used for that purpose. There was a difference in the feel. These different ballots included a slight depressed prefold, so they could be easily folded and unfolded for use in the scanning machines. There were no markings on the ballots to show where they had come from or where they had been processed. These stood out. In my 20 years of experience of handling ballots, I observed that the markings for the candidates on these ballots were unusually uniform, perhaps even with a ballot marking device. By my estimate, in observing these ballots, approximately 98% constituted votes for Joe Biden. I only observed 2 of these ballots as votes for President Donald J. Trump. So presumably observed 100 of these ballots. The same affiant further testified specifically to the breach of the chain of custody of the voting machines the night before the election, stating, "We typically receive the machines, the ballot marking devices, on the Friday before the election with a chain of custody letter to be signed on Sunday, indicating that we had received the machines and the counts on the machines when received and the machines had been sealed. In this case, we were asked to sign the chain of custody letter on Sunday, even though the machines were not delivered until 2 a.m. in the morning on Election Day." That would be Tuesday, so that's a day and a half later. The Milton precinct received its machines at 1 a.m. in the morning on Election Day. This is unacceptable, and voting machines should not be out of custody prior to an election day. Evidence of fraud. Fraud. We have really tremendous forensics looking at this. More forensics. Nobody's ever developed a forensic team like this. Frankly, we never had to. Never had to develop forensics. You never needed forensics before. Now we've got these machines. We need forensics, and we've got the best. We've got the best team. I want to assure people we've got the best team, but you never needed it before. That's all I'm saying. Okay. The stunning pattern of the nature and acts of fraud demonstrate an absence of mistake. Relic 1. You just can't see the hand gestures because I can't pan the camera down because I'm not wearing pants. The same affiant further explained in sworn testimony that the breach included when we did receive the machines, they were not sealed or locked. The serial numbers were not what were reflected on the related documentation. Damn. An affiant testified that while in Henry County, I personally witnessed ballots cast for Donald Trump being placed in the pile for Joseph Biden. I witnessed this happen at table A. The affiant further testified that when this was brought to Miss Pitt's attention, it was met with extreme hostility. At no time did I witness any ballot cast for Joseph Biden be placed in the pile for Donald Trump. Look, you got to cheat both ways. It's only fair. Another affiant in the mail-in ballot and absentee ballot recounting process testified in her sworn affidavit that on November 16, 2020, it was also of particular interest to me to see that signatures were not being verified and there were no corresponding envelopes seen in sight. Yet another affiant in the recount process testified that he received pushback and a lack of any cooperation and was even threatened as if he did something wrong when he pointed out that the failure to follow the rules with the observers while open mail-in ballot recounting was occurring, stating, however, as an observer, I observed that the precinct had 12 counting tables but only one monitor from the Republican Party. I brought it up to Erica Johnston since the recount rules provided for one monitor from each party per 10 tables or part thereof. Question is, why was there only one there? Was only one sent by the Republican Party, or was someone precluded from being there? Those are two different questions. If the Republican Party only appointed one monitor and only sent one monitor, that's on the Republican Party. Wait, Baneling, how have we not hit 900 likes yet? What are you doing? By the way, guys, if you, I know you're all here for the election, white pill, doom pill, black pill, whatever it is. If you are also a nerd and like nerd content like D&D, Warhammer 40K, anime, movies, music, I don't know, whatever. If you like that, please subscribe to my other channel, Ricada Media. The link is in the description, but it's also just youtube.com/Ricada Media for less stressful content, much more laid back and nerd related content. I am trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on that channel. It is also secretly a buffer channel. If this channel ever gets yeeted by the powers that be, that is where streaming will resume. But if you like video games and other stuff, go check it out. Help me out over there and enjoy some bonus content for everyone. So give it a shot. Whoa, we grifted some likes. Oh my God. While you're here, hit right click on the link in the description, open in a new tab, and subscribe to that damn channel. Just kidding. For 1,000 likes, I will go ahead and finish this shot in one swig. Ooh. You know you're a professional alcoholic when you can gurgle the whiskey without crying. Socialism is for Fig says, in Kermit voice, you are still a doomer, but I will like you again after this is over. Maybe. Not sure yet. There you go. Another Affian explains a pattern of behavior that is alarming in his position as an observer in the recount on absentee ballots with barcodes. He testified. I witnessed 2 poll workers placing already separated paper machine receipt ballots with barcodes in the Trump tray, placing them into the Biden tray. I also witnessed the same 2 poll workers putting the already separated paper ballots in the no vote and Jorgensen tray and removing them and putting them inside the Biden tray. Look, we know that if Jorgensen got a vote, it should immediately be audited. The Libertarian Party this year was the biggest embarrassment maybe ever, except for the Libertarians who got naked at the convention in 2016. Look, if you guys get to 2,000 likes, there's only 3,000 people here. If you get to 2,000 likes, I will do a shot of something I don't like. I'll do a shot of coffee-flavored whiskey if you get to 2,000 likes, and I hate coffee. Just for you. Just for you. Okay, sorry. They then took out all the ballots out of the Biden tray and stacked them on the table, writing on the count ballot sheet. Wait, they took the no vote and Jorgensen votes and gave them to Biden? What a dick move. Another affiant, a Democrat, testified in his sworn affidavit that before he was forced to move back to where he could not see, he had in fact seen absentee ballots for Trump inserted into Biden's stack and counted as Biden votes. This occurred a few times. Yet another affiant testified about the lack of process and the hostility only towards the Republican Party, which is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. He testified that, I also observed throughout my 3 days in Atlanta, Hotlanta, not once did anyone verify these ballots. In fact, there was no authentication process in place and no envelopes were observed or allowed to be observed. I saw hostility toward Republican observers, but never toward Democrat observers. Both were identified by badges. Another affiant explained that his ballot was not only not processed in accordance with election law, he witnessed people reviewing his ballot to decide where to place it, which violated the privacy of his ballot. And when he tried to report it for a voter fraud line, he never received any contact or cooperation, stating, I voted early on October 12th at a precinct in Linwood Park. Because of irregularities at the polling location, I called the voter fraud line to ask why persons were discussing my ballot and reviewing it to decide where to place it. When I called the state fraud line, I was directed to a worker in the office of the Secretary of State. So there you go. He further testified that when he was an observer at the Lithonia location, he saw many irregularities and specifically saw an auditor sort Biden votes that he collected and sorted into 10 ballot stacks, which the auditor did not show anyone. I want to immediately draw a distinction. Look, I have been shitting on Sidney Powell for a couple days because she hadn't produced anything that she was saying. And so I am going to humbly say that so far, this is a very well-drafted complaint, and it seems to be well-supported. It seems to be well-supported. So good job, Sidney Powell. I will further state that this is miles better than the shit lawsuit that was filed in Pennsylvania by Trump's legal team. This is clear fucking miles better than that. And here's why. Even if this gets dismissed, which let me caveat before you guys like me too much. I wouldn't want to be popular. Before you like me too much, let me caveat. This has a high chance of being thrown out, period. High chance of it. For the same reasons that many other lawsuits are thrown out. Not the same as Lynn Woods. I think she's defeated the standing argument. But there's judges, right? And they're political animals. They have to be voted on too. Which may be a conflict. Well, no, wait. This is a federal judge. A federal judge. Not, sorry. State judges are political. Federal judges are not. However, they do have political considerations that go on. So you never know. You never know. This could be thrown out like nothing else. However, what this lawsuit has already done better than the Pennsylvania lawsuit that Rudy Giuliani was arguing, this lawsuit just fucking links to evidence. There's actual in the complaint citations to the damn affidavits. I don't know why in God's name Rudy, who gets up on stage and gets behind a damn microphone and says over and over, we got hundreds, maybe thousands of affidavits. We got affidavits everywhere. We got affidavits all over the place. But he won't just, they can't link to an affidavit in their complaint. Mind-blowingly stupid to not put the damn evidence in the complaint. But for some reason, that team thought maybe we shouldn't put our evidence in the complaint. Maybe what we should do is not put evidence in the complaint. This complaint is miles better, if for no other reason than just putting the evidence in the complaint. Good job, Sidney Powell. Okay, another affiant testified about the use of different paper for ballots that would constitute fraud, stating, I noticed that almost all of the ballots I reviewed were for Biden. Many batches went 100% for Biden. I also observed that the watermark on at least 3 ballots were solid gray instead of transparent, leading me to believe the ballot was counterfeit. I challenged this, and the elections director said it was a legitimate ballot and was due to the use of different printers. Many ballots had markings for Biden only and no markings on the rest of the ballot. Let me address this real quick. This argument logically makes sense. No one just goes in and marks the president and leaves. Nobody does that. However, practically, they might. So this alone is not enough. It's never been enough. And it's been a problematic point for the Trump teams so far. Saying that, oh, they only voted for Biden and no one down ballot. I know it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. It's not even unreasonable that someone would do that, especially in a hotly contested election where both sides have talked for years about low information voters. Well, if you're low information, maybe all you care about is the president that you've been hearing about forever. Maybe you really hate Trump. It's not outside the realm of the possibility that someone would vote for Biden or Trump with no down ballot votes. So that alone has not been enough. And it shouldn't ever be enough in court. Now, combined with other stuff, could be. But I just want to point out that is a bad argument for a legal argument. An affiant testified, and while at the audit, while in Henry County, not being able to read, I personally witnessed ballots cast for Donald Trump being placed in the pile for Joseph Biden. I witnessed this happen at table A. Same guy from before. Another affiant testified, I witnessed 2 poll workers placing already separated paper machine receipt ballots with barcodes in the Trump tray, placing them in the Biden tray. I also witnessed the same 2 poll workers putting the already separated paper receipt ablots in the no vote in Jorgensen tray and removing them, putting them inside the Biden tray. We saw this one earlier too. They then took out all of the ballots out of the Biden tray and stacked them on the table, writing on the count ballot sheet. These are interesting because these are clear election fraud. Like, this is fraud. Another affiant, a Democrat, testified in a sworn affidavit before he was forced to move back to where he could see. So this is another one we read earlier. They're repeating these, and they should. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Could there be a loophole, and that is why they file crappy lawsuits? No. No. They just did bad work. That's okay. Not all legal work is done well. They just did bad work. That whole we wanted to lose in Pennsylvania. Everything about that is a lie. That's all marketing, and it's bad marketing. It's never a good thing to intentionally lose. It just isn't. I'm going to lose so I can appeal it. Nope. It's always better to win. It's always, would you ever want to lose? It's always better to win. Unless your prize is suicide and the consolation prize for losing is a supermodel, you want to win every time. Okay, a Republican National Committee monitor in Georgia's election recount, Hale Susi, told an undercover journalist there are individuals counting ballots who have made continuous errors. Writes O'Keefe, Project Veritas. Watch. Latest Project Veritas video reveals multiple ballots meant for Trump went to Biden in Georgia. The voting machines and secrecy. Software used by voting machines throughout Georgia is crucial. These violations of federal and state laws impacted the election of November 3rd, 2020, and set the predicate for the evidence of deliberate fraudulent conduct, manipulation, lack of mistake that follows. The commonality and statewide nature of these legal violations renders certification of legal vote untenable and warrants immediate impoundment of voting machines and software used throughout Georgia for expert inspection and retrieval of the software. Here's an interesting proposition. Let's say they get the software and the ballot machines. They inspect them and they can't find anything. They can't find anything that links to fraudulent votes. This will all be for naught. Guys, 751 likes to get me to drink coffee whiskey. I hate coffee. I like whiskey. Here, I'll show you. This is Lady Racket's whiskey. Jameson cold brew. I hate it already. I'll probably make an ugly face while drinking it. But you guys have to do the work. You have to click that little like button. You have to do it. And many of you have to do it. I don't think you can. In fact, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by the showing so far. We're at elite likes, 1337. An affiant who is a network and information cybersecurity expert under sworn testimony explains, I used to be a cybersecurity expert. I haven't kept it up. Under sworn testimony explains that after studying the user manual for Dominion Voting Systems democracy software, He learned that the information about scanned ballots can be tracked inside the software system for Dominion. Ooh. When bulk ballot scanning and tabulation begins, the ImageCast central workstation operator will load a batch of ballots into the scanner feed tray and then start the scanning procedure within the software menu. Scanner then begins to scan the ballots which were loaded into the feed tray while the ImageCast central software application tabulates votes in real time. Information about scanned ballots can be tracked inside the ImageCast central software application. Great. Thanks, Ronald Watkins. Affiant further explains that the central operator can remove or discard batches of votes after all of the ballots loaded into the scanner. And they should be able to, by the way. If there was some sort of feed error or whatever, they should be able to undo the batch of votes and redo it, in my opinion. After all the ballots loaded into the scanner's feed tray have been through the scanner, the ImageCast central operator will remove the ballots from the tray and have the option to either accept batch or discard batch on the scanning menu. Of course, that makes sense. Avient further testifies that the Dominion Smartmatic user manual itself makes clear that the system allows for threshold settings to be set to mark all ballots as problem ballots for discretionary determinations on where the vote goes. It states, during the scanning process, the ImageCast central software will detect how much of a percent coverage of the oval was filled in by the voter. The Dominion customer determines the thresholds of which the oval needs to be covered by a mark in order to qualify as a valid vote. If a ballot has a marginal mark which did not meet the specific threshold set by the customer, then the ballot is considered a problem ballot and may be set aside into a folder named Not Cast Images. Through creatively tweaking the oval coverage threshold settings, it should be possible to set thresholds in such a way that a non-trivial amount of ballots are marked problem ballots and sent to the Not Cast Images folder. It is possible for an administrator of the ImageCast central workstation to view all images of scanned ballots which were deemed problem ballots by simply navigating via the standard Windows File Explorer to the folder named Not Cast Images, which holds ballots scanned of problem ballots. It is possible for an administrator of the ImageCast central workstation to view and delete any individual ballot scans from the Not Cast Images folder by simply using the standard Windows Delete and Recycle bin functions provided by the Windows 10 Pro operating system. None of that is suspicious at all. Like, everything about what was just read was entirely expected software side management of data. So I'm not sure what they're going for there. That just isn't suspicious at all. I need more tea. They have to now link this to some sort of allegation that this was used improperly. That's what they have to do. Just having this feature seems like it should exist. The affiant further explains the vulnerabilities in the system when the copy of the selected ballots that are approved in the results folder are made to a flash memory card, and that is connected to a Windows computer, stating, it is possible for an administrator of the ImageCast central workstation to view and delete any individual ballot scans from the Not Cast Images folder by simply using the standard Windows Delete and Recycle bin functions provided by the Windows 10 Pro operating system. The upload process is just a simple copying of a results folder containing vote tallies to a flash memory card connected to the Windows 10 Pro machine. Copy process uses the standard drag and drop or copy paste mechanisms within the ubiquitous Windows File Explorer. While a simple procedure, this process may be error-prone and is very vulnerable to malicious administrators, and all of the fraud is found in this paragraph right here. Right there. Period. Outside the quotation marks is utterly degenerate and clearly a foreign agent not using proper American. They can get wrecked for all I care. That's bullshit. Americans are not wrong about their grammar. Your grammar's upside down, Nova Zero. Don't you even at me. Bad Vibe says it's not an exploit, it's a feature. Oh, I missed this one earlier from Versi saying, yo, be careful with your drinking. I'd like to watch a movie with y'all tonight. Well, me too. Me too. Are you mixing? If so, with what? No, this is just sweet tea. Straight Milo's sweet tea with real sugar. I'm not mixing any alcohol. Look, I'm not drinking anymore until you guys get to 2,000 likes. Can't help you. Can't help you there. We're not going to get through all of this. We're on page 40 of 104. And before you yell at me for being too ADHD, there was no way I was going to get through all of this anyway. So I assume that most of you will probably not be traveling for Thanksgiving because your states have either put the fear in you or put the fear in your families, and you won't be going anywhere. I will be doing a show tomorrow on Thanksgiving just for you guys. Just for you. So we will be we'll be doing a show tomorrow. We'll pick up on this. We're going to keep going for a little bit. I don't like to stream on holidays usually, but with Corona and everybody being stuck, you know, I figure we'll go ahead and do it. Same time, 11 p.m., normal time. You know, everybody's stuck at home and it just fucking sucks. And people aren't seeing their families. And so if I can even provide entertainment for one or two people for that night, I will do so. It was announced on Monday, July 29th, 2019, that Governor Kemp awarded a contract for 30,000 new voting machines to Dominion Voting Systems, scrapping the state's 17-year-old electronic voting equipment, replacing it with touchscreens that print out paper ballots. Why would you do this? Oh, God, just get a piece of paper and a pen and fill it in like everybody's done forever. Critics are quoted, led by Abrams, Democrats fought the legislation and pointed to cybersecurity experts who warned it would leave Georgia elections susceptible to hacking and tampering. And just this week, the Fair Fight voting rights group started by Stacey Abrams launched a television ad critical of the bill. In a statement Thursday, the group called it corruption at its worst and a waste of money on hackable voting machines. Chris Ames. Funny, but no, we're having our Thanksgiving. We don't normally have our holidays on the holidays anyway. So we're having our Thanksgiving on a different day. I will be violating Minnesota law on a different day. And by the way, Governor Walz, I just told you I will be violating Minnesota law on the lockdown. I won't tell you what day because fuck you trying to ruin my day. But I will be violating the law. I will be violating your unconstitutional piece of shit order. You can eat my groceries, you garbage human. I dare you. Try and prosecute me for thought and speech crimes, you fat fucking idiot. Eat shit. I hope your turkey tastes like trash. You're the worst person in Minnesota right now. Fuck you. It was further reported in 2019 that the new Dominion voting machines in Georgia, quote, with Georgia's current voting system, there's no way to guarantee that electronic ballots accurately reflect the choices of voters because there's no proper backup to verify results. With it being reported that, A, recounts are meaningless on the direct recording electronic voting machines because they simply reproduce the same numbers they originally generated, but paper ballots alone won't protect the sanctity of elections on the new touch screens called ballot marking devices. Yeah, this is a problem, right? Because if I press Trump and it marks Biden and then I put it in the other machine, what have I done? Have I actually, what? And then what's the recount going to do? James Coley says, take your pen and fill it in. What are things a man and women, what are things a woman with loose morals would say? For Alex? Very nice. Very nice. I don't know if enforced lockdown would be a technical violation of the First Amendment. I know that the Minnesota governor's order that says anyone talking about violating the order will be subject to civil or criminal penalties is a violation, a patent violation of the First Amendment. It may even produce a chilling effect on otherwise legal speech, specifically political speech, disagreeing with our gay Democrat overlords. Fuck you, Walls. You can eat all the shit in the world. You're garbage. God damn it. Anyway, I know that it's an a priori restriction on my speech, and he can't do it. So you can put it in your fucking executive order, and I will take that order, and I'll shove it right up the judge's ass, and I'll pull it out of his mouth, and then I'll shove it down your mouth, pull it out your ass, and shove it back in your mouth. Fuck you. God, oh, now you're pissing me off. Recounts are meaningless on the direct recording electronic voting machines because they simply reproduce the same numbers. I read this already. The new election system depends on voters to verify the printed text of their choices on their ballots, a step that many voters might not take. The state election board hasn't yet created regulations for how recounts and audits will be conducted, and paper ballots embed selections in barcodes that are only readable by scanning machines, leaving Georgians uncertain whether the barcodes match their votes. Oh, that's just great, isn't it? That's just great. As part of the scheme and artifices to defraud the plaintiffs, the candidates, and the voters of undiminished and unaltered voting results in a free and legal election, the defendants and other persons known and unknown committed the following violations of law. Okay, so see, this is some of the stuff that's really good to read, because as a Minnesotan, where we don't have these, at least in my county, we don't have these voting machines. I literally take a piece of paper with all the printed possible votes, right? And I take a pen and I scribble in like I'm in middle school the answer to the question. I scribble it in, and then I know exactly how I voted, because you can't do it any other way than what I chose. The only way I wouldn't know is if I was a lunatic who couldn't tell what circle I filled in. And then I take it over to the thing in my secret manila envelope, like manila folder or whatever. And I pull out the ballot and I shove it in the machine, then it's done. Now, I don't know that the machine actually tabulates my vote in the way that I voted. However, there's security in that, because at the end of the day, someone in theory could take my physical ballot, look at it, and say, Trump, and put it in a pile. And they could look at the next one, or the next two, because we're in commie Minnesota, and say, Biden, put it in a different pile. Very simple to do, very verifiable. If you have a barcode system where a vote is recorded by a barcode that the user can't verify, can only be verified by the machine that might be manipulating the data, you've got a fucking problem. And why anyone would think that that is a secure or reasonable way to do elections is absolutely baffling to me. All right, we're going to read for a couple more minutes and we'll do super chats and we'll wrap up for tonight, and we will resume this tomorrow. We'll resume this tomorrow. $50 USC 2701 requires the retention and preservation of records and papers by officers of elections under penalty of fine and imprisonment Every officer of election shall retain and preserve for a period of 22 months from the date of any general, special, or primary election of which candidates for the office of president, vice president, presidential elector, member of the Senate, member of the House of Representatives, or resident commissioner from the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico are voted for. All records and papers which come into his possession relating to any application, registration, payment of poll tax, or any requisite to voting in such election, except that when required by law, such records and papers may be delivered to another officer of election, and except that if a state or the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico designates a custodian to retain such and preserve these records and papers at a specified place, then such records and papers may be deposited with such custodian, and the duty to retain and preserve any record or paper so deposited shall devolve upon a such custodian. Any officer of election or custodian who willfully fails to comply with this section shall be fined not more than $1,000 or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Okay. In the primaries, it was confirmed that the rapid introduction of new technologies and processes in state voting systems heightens the risk of foreign interference and insider tampering. That's true even if simple human error or local maneuvering for political advantage are more likely threats. A Penn Wharton study from 2016 concluded that voters and their representatives in government, often prompted by news of high-profile voting problems, also have raised concerns about the reliability and integrity of the voting process and have increasingly called for the use of modern technologies such as laptops and tablets to improve convenience. As evidence of the defects or features of the Dominion Democracy Suite as described above, the same Dominion Democracy Suite was denied certification in Texas by the Secretary of State on January 24, 2020, specifically because of a lack of evidence of efficiency and accuracy to be safe from fraud or unauthorized manipulation. Plaintiffs have since learned that the glitches in the Dominion system that have the uniform effect of taking votes from Trump and shifting them to Biden have been widely reported in the press and confirmed by the analysis of independent experts. Plaintiffs can show through expert and fact witnesses that Dominion Smartmatic systems have massive end-user vulnerabilities. Users on the ground have full admin privileges to machines and software having been created to rig elections. The Dominion system is designed to facilitate vulnerability and allow a select few to determine which votes will be counted in any election. Workers were responsible for moving ballot data from polling place to the collector's office and inputting it into the correct folder. Any anomaly, such as pen drips or bleeds, results in a ballot being rejected. It is then handed over to a poll worker to analyze and decide if it should count. This creates massive opportunity for purely discretionary and improperly vote adjudication. They're not selling me on this argument. So the idea is that Dominion is correctly recording votes now, but if there's any anomaly in the vote bubble, that someone can then take a look at the vote bubble and adjudicate what it should be on their own, and they are doing it improperly. This is not enough of an argument with the facts at hand to justify it, because just because they can do this doesn't necessarily mean that they did, or conversely, doesn't necessarily mean that they did in sufficient numbers to affect the election. And that is the problem. That is the problem. That's the problem with the legal argument. Now, do I believe that someone did this? Yeah, of course. Like, if you're a piece of shit and you're sitting there and you're like, this bad vote was for Joe Biden and I have discretion and I like Trump, bye Biden. Or obviously, if it was Trump, or if you're only Joe Jorgensen fan, you get rid of everybody's votes because no one voted for Joe Jorgensen, so you're only getting rid of Biden and Trump votes. I got it. Like, sure, I believe that happened. And even if it's subconscious, if it's like, well, they only filled in half of the bubble, so they probably meant to vote independent. Right. So you get rid of it. You say this is not qualified. Of course I believe that it happened. Question is, did it happen on a sufficient scale to impact the election? I don't know. And that's one problem I'm noticing so far with this lawsuit. But, caveat, you don't have to have it in the lawsuit at this point. However, they're not sufficiently linking the number of impacted votes to the specific issues yet. They may later in the lawsuit. We're going to keep an eye out for that specific issue because under the statute for which they are contesting this election, they must show that a sufficient number of votes in question exist to challenge the results of the election. They haven't done that anywhere yet in the fact section. They're probably reserving it for the individual count section, and that's fine. They can. This isn't a criticism yet. It's an observation. It may become a criticism if they never actually do it, or if they only link it to one issue and ignore the rest of the issues. That's just where we're at right now. Daniel Camargo, I believe you. I'm just pointing out what I've seen so far. That's all. And again, using it as a point of education in legal drafting. Affiant witness, name redacted for security reasons, has sworn testimony. In his sworn testimony, explains that he was selected for the National Security Guard detail of the president of Venezuela, and that he witnessed the creation of Smartmatic for the purpose of election vote manipulation to ensure Venezuelan director Hugo Chavez never lost an election, and he saw it work. Quote, the purpose of this conspiracy was to create and operate a voting system that could change the votes in election from votes against persons running the Venezuelan government to votes in their favor in order to maintain control of the government. Again, you have pointing out a weakness here. This is the fallacy of confluence, is what I'm calling it, even though I'm drunk, so that's probably not a good name for it. But the idea that they can do this, and it was done in Venezuela, does not logically lead to a necessary conclusion that it was done here. The Venezuelan governmental structure is sufficiently different on its own to raise questions about it. It says, well, wait, in Venezuela, the government workers counting the ballots are directly employed by the Hugo Chavez administration. In Georgia, no one counting ballots is employed by Joe Biden. In fact, in Georgia, the more likely employees generally are going to be Republican. Now, in Atlanta, they're more likely to be Democrat for sure. But you've got a vast disparity there between the structure with which Venezuelan government works and the federalist structure that the United States has. I'm not saying it's fatal, but I'm saying that it casts a severe amount of doubt on this argument without further evidence. And I believe you that they get to it. I do. I'm, again, as we go, giving impressions. That's all. That's all. They could do it better. And I'm saying these things out loud so that I'm more likely to remember them tomorrow when we come back and revisit this document. Things I want to look for. I want to look for this aspect of it. I want to look for the vote counts being linked to individual cause of action. If I say them to you guys, I'm more likely to remember wanting to look for them later. So anyway, Virday says, Nick, as someone who dabbles in cybersecurity, the argument is that the ability to tamper is accessible to everyone, where it should at least be restricted to intended personnel, and that's a cybersecurity argument, not a legal one. Yes, I agree. I 100% agree. The problem with the legal argument is that the legal argument can even assume that there is no security, no adequate security at all. That doesn't, you still have to, at that point, show more. You have to show not that security could be breached or not that a system could be exploited, but rather a preponderance of evidence, which is only 51%, but to say that it was in fact breached or it was in fact exploited. At least more likely than not that it was. That's what you have to show in court. And you can't just say, well, of course it was, because they had the opportunity and of course they would take it. And that's my argument in life, is like, look, if people have the opportunity to cheat on the biggest thing that matters in America right now, which is the election, of fucking course they cheat. Of course they do. It would be stupid for people to not cheat. Like, I think Trump probably tried to cheat, or someone tried to cheat on his behalf somewhere. Of course they did. Of course someone tried to cheat. Whether or not they ordered it directly, the scale, the scope, the number, those are all questions. But of course they tried to cheat. It's the presidential election. Trump is the worst man on the planet. He is Hitler literally reincarnated, except blonde and fatter. He must be stopped at all costs. Yes, they cheated. There's no question in my mind that someone cheated. It's dumb to think so. There's a difference, though, between that and a legal argument. And the court, this is important to remember about the court. This is the most important thing. Every legal argument, the court has to assume that it is, in fact, retarded. It has to. The court goes, I mean, I know all this stuff does happen, but I'm retarded. So maybe it didn't. That's what the court has to do. It has to do it. Because that's how legal questions are resolved. So I'm just saying, you can't just say that the opportunity for fraud exists and is compelling, therefore the fraud likely occurred. You have to show one more thing. You have to. So that's the only reason I bring this up. I'm not being critical either. I'm just, again, we're in this mode of legal drafting, legal education. There's a lot more of this complaint to go, which we will get to tomorrow. Blue Moon, I'm not doom pilling at all. I'm not doom pilling in the slightest. What are you talking about? All right, this is a good stopping point. We're on page 45. Tomorrow I'll get to it a little faster. We're on paragraph 104. Let's read chats. Let's wrap up the show. And then I will go over to Twitch for some relaxed movie watching. Will be fun. Will be fun. I'm not doing it tonight, Simple Jack. I'm not going to. This, like I said, color me pleasantly surprised that Sidney Powell is bringing so far an interesting and somewhat competent legal document. Whether it will be enough, of course, we'll have to see. We don't know until the court looks at it. I wish he would have brought this a week to 2 weeks ago. I really do wish that this would have been brought out. I think the more time would have been better, but maybe they didn't have access. Look, when I say stuff like that, I'm speaking in the fun vacuum of having no access to the data. Maybe they didn't have the affidavits. Maybe the people needed to be persuaded, not in any nefarious ways, but offered, like, we will protect your identity. We will do all these things. Maybe they needed all that to get people to sign on to it because they're in danger or whatever. All sorts of stuff. Maybe they're waiting. There's all sorts of strategic reasons. In an ideal world, with everything I know now, I would have liked this lawsuit to come out a week to 2 weeks ago. Of course I would. I'm not saying it's bad that it didn't come out till now. I just wanted it earlier because I'm worried about the time frame on all of this. So, that being said, this has been pleasantly surprising document, and I'm willing to give Sidney a little leeway and say, I hear you, girl. I hear you, girl, and I'm encouraged by what she's filed so far. Stream title is a lie. I'll be modifying it. I'll be modifying it to reflect that this came up as an emergency. Still didn't even cover the lawsuit in Pennsylvania, which is a separate and really interesting legal question. And I promised in my video I would cover it today on the live stream, but I didn't. So I am a worse liar than anybody else, and that's okay. We will get to it. We will get to it. We have a couple more days this week to get to this stuff, and we'll do it. You'd love to see me write this case in a few days, bro. I actually want to see you do it and then bring it to the channel. Well, I don't have to write this case. It's already been written, and I don't have access to the evidence. No, I fully believed this case was written in a matter of hours. It's when you can actually compile the get all the affiants. Like, look, people were let's bring this in a different way. People were critical of Ty in the Vic case, okay? They're critical of Ty in the Vic case for not bringing the affidavits of Chuck Huber, of Vic Mignogna himself, and of Chris Slatosh sooner. Let me blow your mind for a minute. What if, by nature of circumstance, those affidavits weren't available until the day they were filed? Because you've got witnesses who might be uncooperative or who might be unavailable or whatever, and so it takes until the day you get them to get them. That's a reality of practice. I think it's very possible that Sidney didn't have access to some of the data that she has in this document until yesterday or today. It's not a matter of drafting. The drafting's fine. I don't know. And again, I don't know what went on behind the scenes for Sidney Powell. And like I said, not knowing any of that, I would have liked it earlier. If they had this information, I would have liked it earlier. But remember that one moron was out there saying, the creator of Overstock.com, saying he could definitively prove the software fraud, and he's had this information for 15 or 16 days. Well, why the fuck have you had the information for 15 or 16 days and we're only hearing about it now? Why didn't we hear about it 15 or 16 days ago? That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. And that's not the lawyer's fault. That's the witness's fault. But anyway, without knowing the details of that, I wanted it earlier. Of course I did. I'm worried about the timeline. That has been consistent worry for me this entire time. I'm worried about the timeline. Okay. Nova Zero says, let's be clear, a bunch of fools who don't know how to spell color and thinks to use a machine are intellectually deficient. Just count the ballots. Sorry to translate. Y'all can count, right? Screw you, lawman. Look, don't ask a Georgian if they can count. The answer might be no. Socialism is for figs. Oh, yeah. It says, I'd love to see you write this case in a few days, bro. I actually want to see you do it and then bring it to the channel. I don't have access to her data. There's redacted affidavits. She's doing great. I'm not being critical. Like, I haven't even been focusing on the minor typos, which I would normally laugh about in this case, because I know they had to write it really quickly. But I think they've done a good job so far. Not critical of this thing at all yet. At the end, I might be. When we get to the end, I might be critical if the things I'm pointing out aren't there. If they don't link a proper standing argument in their cause of action, we might have a problem. If they don't link the 96,600 votes to specific causes of action, those causes of action could be individually dismissed, might be a problem. If this evidence doesn't actually manifest, or if they don't show how the evidence of the Venezuelan interference somehow logically leads to Trump interference, if they don't say, we know that this is how it happened, we know it has the opportunity to happen, and then they have to have this crucial third element. We can show you that it likely did happen here. They don't do that. Might have problems with the document. We're not through the document. I can't make those judgments yet. So, all right, guys. Let's do the chats. What are we watching on Amazon tonight? What are we watching on Twitch? What are we watching on Twitch? Why don't I have it up? Amazon.com. Prime Video. What are we watching? I got all kinds of watch list stuff? Should we watch 1984? Oh God, that's an hour and 50 minutes? That sounds terrible. Oh, it's not Prime anyway. Should we watch Cocaine Wars? That sounds good. Cocaine Wars. All right. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and I will announce it. Oh wait, no. Well, no, that's 2 hours. Damn it. We're probably gonna watch Cocaine Wars, but I may change that. We'll take a look. We get over there. I gotta stop looking at this. I gotta finish this damn stream. What am I doing, guys? My ADD. 28 days later is 2 hours long. We can do, okay, fine. Oh, fine, chat. Chat, you earned this. 28 days later. Just for you. That's what we'll do. Okay, let's do the chats. 28 days later is what we're going to do next. Over on Twitch. Mercenary X says, Nick, check your YouTube account. I suddenly got hit with some sort of weird glitch where I can't search anything on YouTube, but it seems to be account specific. My backup account I can search without problems. Everybody check to see if you got hit with it. Always check to make sure you're subscribed. People get unsubscribed from this channel all the time because Susan loves being a catch you next Tuesday. Crusader Saracen says, may Allah shower you and your family with good fortunes and blessings. May y'all enjoy Thanksgiving tomorrow with your extended family, expressly in violation of any limp dick governor's orders because fuck the police. Coming straight from the Wilmer Sound. No, I will not be violating orders until a later date, but I will be at that point. He also says, also, my stocks have done okay recently, and I intend to put some of that towards buying and donating foodstuffs to a Salvation Army food bank. Is there any better canned food that I can buy besides bog standard Chunkies or Campbell's? Peanut butter. Peanut butter is a great purchase for food shelves because peanut butter is nutrient dense, protein and calorie and fat dense. It's a great food for people to eat. And you can buy big ass tubs of it. And families love that because they can just slather it on bread. And lots of them get bread for free. So, Hugo Chavez says, yes, people in Venezuela all loved me. Trust me, just look at the votes. How could you possibly dispute the votes? Crusader Saracen says, as far as Republicans like Kemp and Ratzensperger allegedly cheating on behalf of Democrats, remember the Project Veritas sting that uncovered a Texas Republican politician paying for ballot harvesting for Democrat votes? Always shoot a traitor before an enemy. Damn. Felipe Mouve sent a couple masks. Thank you. 3-7 donated and says, what do you think about Trump down ballot 99% filled in, whereas Biden has mind-boggling numbers? I forgot the amount, but enough to swing the election 20 times over that are just marked for Biden, as if 500,000 ballots marked in a warehouse, in my opinion, proof. I think that's great. I think that, along with some other compelling evidence, is good evidence of fraud. The problem is that by itself, and I know this sounds stupid because remember, courts have to be intentionally stupid. That by itself could, in theory, happen. So without more, you can't say that it's wrong. Because it could happen. Unlikely doesn't mean not true. And whoever said to check out the conservative twins, the Hodge twins, I love those guys. I would have those guys on a show immediately, 100 times over. They're freaking hilarious. They're great. If anybody has their contact info and could put in a word for me, I would love to talk to the Hodge twins. It's always a matter of getting to someone for the interview. But I would interview them all day. They're great. Yamcha did nothing wrong. Says, Nikki, when Warhammer 40 find stream? Warhammer 40 find stream? I don't know. I'd love to watch some. I'd love to do some 40K stuff. Election stuff right now is just too big and it's changing too much. It's changing too much. What was a damn good show? What was a damn good show? I don't know what's going on. Everybody's saying it. Silky Johnson says, hey, Nick, I live in Ohio, and if you get a state medical marijuana card, you're not allowed to purchase firearms. How is something like that legal because of the Second Amendment, and can it be challenged in the state courts? Happy Turkey Day to you and the Racket Tribe. I don't know about Ohio. Oh, that's the catchphrase? That's the catchphrase for the Hodge twins? I don't know. I never pay attention to that phrase. I always just watch their short clips on YouTube. And I love them. I'll have to pay attention. I never caught that. That's hilarious. Silky Johnson. I don't know if this is the case in Ohio, but I do know that the ATF sent out a guidance letter saying that if you were informed that someone had a medical marijuana card, that could be used to determine that they were an unlawful user of a controlled substance because marijuana is still federally illegal. And therefore, that guidance alone could allow, it was permissive, not mandatory, would allow a gun distributor to the opportunity to refuse to sell a gun to someone if they knew that they had a marijuana card and therefore were an unlawful user of a controlled substance. That may be different. That's what I remember it being a couple years back. So that since it's in the discretion of the gun salesperson and they have a lot of authority on that, no, it can't really be challenged because it was just guidance from ATF. It says that you can use this as a basis, not even that you must use it as a basis. So, yeah. But that, of course, relies on you disclosing that fact to the gun manufacturer or to the gun salesperson, which I don't know why you would. Andrew War Snowboard says, favorite snack to eat while drinking whiskey? Steak. Mickey Strand 1 says, RGE sent me to remind everyone, sub and ring that bell. Please do. He also says, Leighton Chair. Vine the Colon says, shill your other channel and add it to the description. I did. It's Ricada Media on YouTube. Go check it out. Boolash 1 says, shill the $20 message requirement. I don't like to talk about it. I should have done it earlier, but since he didn't send it as a $20 message, I didn't read it until now. Because of the volume of super chats and the fact that I read all super chats that come in, no matter the size or volume of them, the only ones I read immediately to preserve the flow of the stream as much as possible are the $20 and higher super chats. If you're new here, that is a rule I implemented once the super chat volume became unmanageable in an effort to reduce the overall amount, because I was getting just a billion $2 super chats, and it took hours and hours and hours to read through them. So that is the thing. If you want your message read right away, $20 plus. I will, however, read every single super chat that comes in. Derek Bambanek says, a victory in Pennsylvania, a potentially game-ending setback in Michigan. I'm confused. I'm going to get some Screwball peanut butter whiskey and listen to my favorite grifter, lol. I'm not familiar with the potentially game-ending setback in Michigan, although there have been a lot of them. Squishy Hunter says, what's up, guys? Welcome to White Pilling the Super Chats. I'm Rick Nikita of Lacada Raw, a small law firm in Central Comfy Soda. Tabletop Joe says, feed me all the pills. Boom, shakalaka. Mickey Strand 1 says, they're called white suppress pills. Solid number 5. Welcome to Super Lawyer Status. Solid number 5. There is a way to get into the Discord listed on the community tab. If you can't find it, message me somewhere and I will get you that link. Daniel Carmago says, Nick, this is a red alert. I'm reading Powell's complaint that just dropped and it's earth-shattering. I don't know that this is earth-shattering at this point, but it is better than expected. So that's good. Reverend Brandon War says, can I take these doom/hope pills with alcohol? Yes. I got a new brandy. I'm popping open tonight. Yes, of course. Some people say Brandy, she's a fine girl. Dovin Death says, I think big tech will pull his ability to fund a competitor like they do with everyone else. They may. They may. Socialism is for figs says the Don.win. Razgriz Reborn says, Ricada Law OAN was demonetized for promoting an unproven COVID medication, apparently. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's why. I'm sure that's why. Look, I'll use specious reasoning to tell you how to get rid of COVID. I drink whiskey all the time and I don't get COVID. Therefore, whiskey prevents COVID. Creeper Weirdo says, nihilism is poo. If Trump wins, you smooch Drex. Nope. If Biden wins, I give you more shekels. I'll take that one, but I will not smooch Drexel. That's gross. Jillian Seed says, chat must write state senators for hearings like Pennsylvania. Do it. Do it. We didn't even get there. CJ says, RE the Republican, Kemp Raffensperger cheating. Don't forget the allegations made that both sides might be cheating via Dominion. L Knight VA says, I want to personally say thank you and the mods for sharing the link for the GoFundMe. God bless you all. L Knight VA, prayers to you and yours. That is an awful situation, and I really do hope that the GoFundMe works out for you guys. And more importantly than money in this time, I hope that you circle up with friends, family, and loved ones, and you're able to kind of weather the storm. That is not enviable. Geekosity says, Kermit voice, listen here, gay boys. You better treat that thumbs up like I treat Miss Piggy and beat it. Slap that thumbs up button. I want to hear it oinking and squealing like Miss Piggy after a long night of raw dog. I better wash my balls after that one. I was hitting the trough harder than anyone else. Character Holding says, is there any chance that they had TDS so hard and thought Trump would cheat, so they cheated and overcompensated? Now they're going, oh shit. Very possible. Very possible. Eagle Loan, yeah, the $20 Canadian still shows up as the $20 super chat. Same with Australian, even though it's all pretend money. Yes, it still counts. Bad Vibe says, sorry, can't Obsidian mail us without Drexel. Sorry. Satanic Potato says, so far my favorite Dragon's Treasure tea is Uravite. God damn it. Uravity. I like Phoenix Ash too. The thank you tea you get from buying $50 of tea in one go is also good. I'm looking forward to his whiskey flavored tea. That's what I'm looking forward to. Hyrule 47, is Parler still trash because of their policies? No, they've modified their terms of service and removed the really egregious stuff that I was bitching about. I'm not going to claim credit for it. I don't know if it had anything to do with me, but I know that when the Parler CEO went on the kill stream, I was not able to be on the kill stream that night to ask my questions, but I did submit a question to Ralph to ask him about those particular passages. And so I think there was probably more, there's got to be more backlash than me on that. I think they listened to the backlash and they modified their terms of service, which is good. James Tyler says, I suffer needles for you, quoting me. Winter says, Vladimir Putin says Russia will only recognize the U.S. president who is elected legally and who enjoys the popular consent of the American people. Wink. Bad Vibe says, Nick, just FYI, Blur from the Transformers movie was VA'd by John Machida Jr., a.k.a. Micro Machine Man. I know. I love the Transformers movie. Decepticons, more Decepticons. If you shoot them here. I can't even do it. My buddy can actually do that line. I cannot. I never can remember what he says. It was good. Also, I have never cried at Optimus Prime dying, except literally every fucking time I watch it. Death Trout says, just get Lady R in there with a belt sander. Oh man, for my skin. Bad Vibe says it puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. Neon Noir says, I want everyone to feel less pain. Hey, me too. Jason of the Great Awakening says, got your Krakens here. Release the Krakens. Edward Elvick says they are trying and seem to succeed. Suggestions. Oh, that was about the landlord thing. Like I said, you gotta email me. I can't do that on a stream. Benjamin the Rogue says, what's up, my Kraken? Hit that like button. Also, YouTube has been acting super sus all night tonight, having issues with channels and videos not displaying. That may be because the Amazon AWS system, which powers like a third of the internet or something, was having problems. I don't know if that's related to the YouTube stuff, but it very well could be. Satanic Potato says, going to sleep. I'll catch the replay. Good show. Daniel Carmargo says, those who rub hands will be very upset with this lawsuit. Who rubs hands? Angry Baneling says, that was some quality like grifting, Nikki. Cal Clay says, election is Batman versus Superman and Biden is Eisenberg. Ron Crossman, me too. Me too, bro. Barb Rogers, Little Miss Sunburn says, I have an angle grinder for you. Cal Clay, Bad Vibe says, inserted into Biden's. Yeah, I'm sure Biden likes it inserted. Michael Straylet says, do a Dalek. Who's a Dalek voice? Exterminate. I don't know what Dalek sounds like. What the hell is Dalek? Mr. Bentham says, Fireball at 2,000 likes or no balls. Also, Con Air lol. I don't have Fireball. I don't keep Fireball on hand because I literally hate it. It says Dalek, not Dalek. Doctor Who? Oh, I don't watch Doctor Who, so I don't know what that is. 200 Watt Studio says, Nick, Biden simping again. Cal Clay says, disc show courtesy, number value of US, host was Trump. Okay. Cal Clay says, Nick, how many likes for you to drink a glass of sourpuss? What is sourpuss? WHMW says, how dare you be embarrassed of us? Take my money. Kimberly Moriarty says, Recatus thanks grifting holiday special. Yes. Yes. Chris Ames says, truth is Nick's family and friends found the perfect excuse to disinvite in classic Minnesota passive-aggressive way. No, we'll be getting together. Like I said, I won't reveal the date. I'll dare Governor Walz to try and preemptively thought speech police me. Automata says, a full stop outside quotation marks is always acceptable for quoted sentence fragments. Otherwise, you risk ambiguity. Don't at me. Nah. Casbiness says, every ballot machine could have a giant button with switch all votes to Biden written on it. You still have to prove someone pushed that button. Yes. Nailed it. That is true. 51% proof that someone pushed the button is required. Automata said, I really hope that a ballot system would have some system for deletion logs and checksums for clearing out files. You got to do that type of thing for ISO compliance in other fields, so why not here? It should. I'm with you. I'm with you. It should. But it, and maybe it does have that requirement, but I don't know. Jason of the Great Awakening says, please let Kraken Pipe Hunter memes be a thing. Kaleo1111 says, movie suggestions, Runaway and Warrior Queen. I think we did Warrior Queen, if I remember right. That's the one with Malcolm McDowell, if I remember right, as well. It's like the Roman one. That was great. I love that movie. Austin Heartless says, Lemoyne voice, Biden is my president. He tells me how all the girls smell because I don't have the lung capacity to do so. Jason of the Great Awakening says, we had their playbook since at least 2017. More Krakens. Bad Vibe says, remember, most lawyers can barely count to 20 without taking off their shoes. Some could count to 21 if they drop their pants. Michael Straylet says, hit that like button. Color. Barb Rogers, Little Miss Sunburn, sent me a Kung Fu dog or something. Stooge Muffin Stuffin says you should drink Kraken rum if Trump gets reelected. Oh, if this thing turns out to be effective, I'll drink some Kraken rum for sure. Michael Strelitz says, bad man, no Dalek voice. Ouch. I just don't even know what it sounds like. Sorry. That's it, guys. That's the show tonight. I fully enjoy hanging out with you guys every night. Thank you so much. And again, consider, for your consideration, Wizards and Relics on Kickstarter. Many of you have backed, and I really appreciate it. That is awesome. They're so close. They're within $800 of their goal. That's just a couple more backers, and it's really cool. And again, there is a Rackets wizard in there, not a me, a different family member. Spooky. Timmy Carl says, if Trump pardoned people that did voter fraud and come forward that they did it, would it help the case? Maybe. It's unlikely that would be enough votes. That's the problem. This is the problem with prosecuting voter fraud in the United States. Is really difficult because we have a secret system and basically someone has to come out and admit that they did it. And the other problem is that whatever voter fraud there is generally not enough per person to impact an election. Because how much voter fraud one person can do is generally limited to like their physical ability to vote in different precincts. So one person could theoretically cast 5 to 10 votes. With absentee ballots, maybe they could cast a couple hundred, maybe. And if you only nail that person, that's not enough. Now, you can assume that more people did it, but again, we're talking about court. You have to bring that information to the court and show that more people did in fact do it, and enough to call the outcome of the election into question. So that's the problem with all of it. It's really difficult. And so I've been saying this entire time. And it is a problem with the Sidney Powell lawsuit as well. Minor doom pill before we go. There's no guarantee that this lawsuit will be heard or that the merits of this lawsuit will be explored because it's so damn hard to challenge an election in the United States. Because elections are political processes, they're not readily subject to judicial review. That's a feature we've built into our system. Because if an administration could employ the government apparatus to ensure that they stayed in power, that would be despotic. And objectively looking out or looking in on this election with no biases, that's, if you want to know why Trump hasn't run in and arrested everyone associated with Dominion, because if the federal executive branch arrested a bunch of people for the purpose of maintaining a presidency, it looks despotic. That's why they haven't done it. It looks like something a North Korean dictator would do or a Venezuelan president would do. So this is the problem with the system. It's the hard part of the system in challenging stuff. And so a lot of my doom pilling and black pilling over the past couple weeks has always boiled back to the fact that whether or not this stuff occurred, getting it competently before the court is hard. That remains true. Sidney's done a good job so far. I'm hoping the rest of the lawsuit will keep on the same track, and maybe we can actually see some of this shit potentially have merit. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. This is a hope pill stream and a hype pill stream, and that is the point of it. So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. The outro is coming like Omar. The outro is failing No Nut November right now. We will see you over on twitch.tv/Ricada Law. Come over there. Let's watch 28 Days Later. And then maybe watch a schlocky 80s or 70s movie with a bunch of boobs in it, because that's always fun. We'll catch you there. Have a good night. Peace. Oh, wait. I got to unmute the intro song. Peace. Peace. Movie tonight is 28 Days Later.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more of Lafroig. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we are now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we